Hey champs of Examsnet, welcome to the chapter wise explanation where we were discussing each of the chapters of class 11th biology. We had already completed the third chapter, that is the plant kingdom, and today we will be completing the fourth chapter, that is the animal kingdom. Okay, and now all the 5 kingdoms will be completed. Okay, the first 3 kingdoms, that means kingdom Monera, Protista and Fungi, were discussed already in the second chapter. The third chapter was entirely dedicated to the kingdom Plantae, and this chapter is entirely dedicated to the kingdom Animalia. Okay, so I hope the chapter will be clear to you. I will try my best. So let's start. So what are animals? We can say that most of the living organisms that we see in our daily lives, except the plants, are animals. Okay. Or we can say that most of the movable creatures that we see in our daily lives are animals, right? They can be carnivores such as dogs or cats. They can be herbivores such as goats, cows or buffalo. Or they can even be insects, reptiles or birds, right? So there are different types of animals that we see in our daily lives, right? One more thing that we know about animals is that all of them are multicellular. Have you ever seen a unicellular animal? No, because the unicellular organisms mainly belong to the kingdoms Monera and Protista, right? Protista, after Protista, the fungi onwards, the animals or the organisms are multicellular. Okay, there is only an exceptional fungi, that is yeast, which is unicellular. Other than this, all the fungi are multicellular, and definitely all the plants and animals are multicellular. So this is the reason why the animals are also known as metazoans. Okay, another name of animals is metazoans. Metazoa. So zoa means animal. Okay, it means animal. And meta word is used because these are more advanced type of animals and they are multicellular. Okay, so the another name of animal is metazoa. Now, here we have to study about different types of animals in a single chapter. So how we are going to do that? How can we study very different animals together? Can you study about dogs and insects together? No, because these are very different from each other, right? Similarly, you cannot study the reptiles and amphibians together, right? So how are we going to study? What we need to do, we will have to simplify our study by classifying them into different groups or different categories, right? So we will make different groups, right? Then we will study the characteristics of each of those groups. Okay, we'll study the characteristics of each of the groups. Then we will automatically come to know what are the characteristics of each of the animals that belong to a particular group or particular category, right? So in order to classify the animals into different groups, there should be some basic criteria, right? Some criteria will be there that will be used as the basis of classification. So what will be the basis of classification? There can be various bases, but some of these are arrangement of cells. This is very important because we know that all in all the organisms the bodies are made up of cells, right? So how these cells are arranged into the body, whether these cells are present in their original form or they are differentiated to form tissues, or tissues are differentiated to form organs and so on. Okay, so this is the thing that will act as the basis of the classification, right? Then another basis can be body plan. Body plan means what is the basic structure of the body. Body plan is nothing but the basic structure of the body. Basic structure. We will discuss each one of these in detail, right? Don't worry. Then the body symmetry is also important. What is symmetry? Symmetry is that characteristic of a body by which it can be divided into two equal halves, okay, into any plane. Okay, suppose this is the body of a butterfly. This is a butterfly, suppose, right? Now, if we pass a plane through the middle of this body of butterfly, then what will happen? The left side and the right side of the butterfly looks similar. Okay, so we can say that in this case, the body is able to divide it into equal halves, right? So this is known as symmetry. right? So symmetry are also of different types. It can be radial symmetry, it can be bilateral symmetry. So some animals can be asymmetrical, some can be bilaterally symmetrical, some can be radially symmetrical. So that will form the basis of classification. Then the nature of coelom. So what is coelom? Coelom is nothing but the body cavity. Okay, coelom is the body cavity. And cavity means what? Space. Cavity means space. Why space is required? To place the organs. We have various organs in our body, so there should be some place in which these organs will be placed. Okay, these will be located or situated. So that space is known as body cavity. Now this body cavity can be of different types, so that also will form a basis of classification. And then the patterns of digestive system, circulatory system, and reproductive system can also be very important basis of classification. Right now, here we know that under a kingdom there can be various phylums, right? So animal kingdom also has contains different phylums. Now it's very important to remember the names of these phylums, and it is also important to remember these names in a particular sequence. Okay, then only you will be able to understand this chapter. If you do not remember the sequence of these phylums, then also you will get confused. Okay, so here we know that the animals are also known as metazoans because these are more advanced organisms. These are multicellular organisms. Okay, so these are known as metazoans. Now these metazoans are broadly classified into two groups. First one is parazoa and the second group is eumetazoa. Okay, parazoa, as the name suggests, these are this group contains a phylum which is more primitive type. Okay, so this phylum has primitive type of animals, that means not advanced type of animals, whereas the second group, that is the eumetazoa, has more advanced form of animals. Okay, or we can say that this group contains the phylums which has more advanced animals. Here we know that the word eu means true. So eumetazoa means true metazoa, and true simply means advanced. Okay, more advanced form. So here just try to remember these names. First one is the parazoa. Parazoa contains only one phylum. Only single phylum is there, and that is the phylum Porifera. Okay, this is the simplest of all the phylums, right? So the group Parazoa contains only Porifera, and all the other phylums are listed under the Eumetazoa. Okay, that means other than the Porifera, all the phylums are more advanced, right? All the other phylums are Eumetazoans, right? So let's remember these names. The first one of the eumetazoa will be Coelenterata. Coelenterata are also known as Cnidaria. Okay, so coelentrates are also known as Cnidarians. Okay, Coelenterata is the name of the phylum, and the animals that belong to this phylum are known as coelentrates or Cnidarians. So this is first one, then Ctenophora, then Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and Chordata. So you have to remember these phylums in this sequence only. Okay. So here there will be some important characteristics of each one of them that we will be discussing when we will discuss about them. But you can simply remember some of the characteristics. For example, Platyhelminthes. These are also known as flatworms. These are known as flatworms. Why these are known as flatworms? Because their body is flattened. Okay. Here simply you can remember this. Aschelminthes. Aschelminthes are also known as roundworms or nematodes or nematohelminths. Why? Because their body is round in shape. Okay. So these are also known as roundworms. Roundworms. Or they are also known as nematodes. Nematodes, or they can also be called nematohelminths, right? Then the next one is Annelida, then Arthropoda. Arthropoda is the largest phylum of the animal kingdom. Okay, this is the largest phylum, and it contains the insects. All the insects belong to the phylum Arthropoda. Then Mollusca. Mollusca are also known as soft-bodied animals. Soft-bodied because they have very soft bodies. Okay, octopus comes under this phylum, Mollusca. Then we have Echinodermata, then Hemichordata and Chordata. We will discuss about them in detail individually. Okay, here you can remember this much. Then let's proceed. We know that there can be various levels of classification, various bases of classification, right? So here we will discuss some of the bases of the classification. First one was arrangement of the cells, right? So arrangement of the cells can also be called as level of organization, because here we discuss in what manner, in what way the cells of the body are organized. Okay, how these are arranged or how these are organized. So there can be various level of organization. The simplest one is the cellular level. What happens in cellular level? Here there is simple aggregation of the cells. Okay, simply there is an aggregation of the cells. Aggregation of cells. That means all the necessary functions of the body are performed individually by the cells. Okay, the cells individually perform all the necessary functions. They do not work together, right? So the only example will be the simplest of phylums, and which is the simplest phylum? Porifera. Okay, so this will have the cellular level of organization, because this is very primitive type of organization. In all the advanced animals, there will be more advanced level of organization. Okay, the next type is tissue level of organization. So this is slightly more advanced than the cellular level of organization. What happens here? The cells, many cells come together and they get modified into tissues. Okay, they get differentiated to perform specific functions. Okay, so suppose what happens, suppose this is one cell, this is one cell, these are cells. Okay, if all the cells are performing different functions individually, this is cellular level of classification. Okay, or cellular level of organization, sorry. Then the second type is that all cells come together. Okay, many cells come together, they form one group or team. Okay, group or team, and this team will perform a specific function. Okay, for example, digestion. These will be involved in digestion. Similarly, there can be another group of cells which will be specialized to perform excretion. Okay, so this way they will be working as a team, right? So in tissue level of organization, the cells will form tissues, and the examples of the phylums which have tissue level of organization is Coelenterata and Ctenophora. And you can remember the Coelenterata and Ctenophora together, because at most of the places these two will come together. Okay, that means they have similar characteristics. So Coelenterates and Ctenophores have tissue level of organization, right? Then we have organ level of organization. In this, the tissues will be further organized or differentiated to form organs. Okay, and the only phylum which has the organ level of organization is the Platyhelminthes. So you can remember this example. Okay, because this is the only phylum. In this type of questions are usually asked, because this can be confusing. So remember, this is the only phylum which has organ level of organization. In some places, you will also see that the platyhelminths are like mentioned under the organ system level of organization. So if organ level organization is given, then you have to mark the organ level. If organ level is not given, then you can mark the organ system level of organization. Okay. And after platyhelminths, the animals will be more advanced, definitely. So all of them will have the organ system level of organization, in which these specific functions will be performed by the organ system, such as digestive system, excretory system, right? Respiratory system. In our body, there is organ system level of organization, because we are very advanced animals, the most advanced animals, right? So Aschelminthes onwards, that means Aschelminthes to chordates, all the animals will be having the organ system level of organization. So what's more important to remember here is the examples. Okay, so just remember the example. Cellular, the most basic type. So the most primitive type of animals, that is Porifera, will be example of cellular level of organization. Then tissue level of organization, two phylums, Coelentrates and Ctenophores. Then organ level of organization, only one phylum, that is Platyhelminths, and then the organ system level of organization is present in all the advanced one. That means Aschelminthes onwards. Okay, Aschelminthes to chordates. So this is one of the basis of classification. Level of organization can be one of the important basis of classification. Then the second basis can be body plan. So this was not mentioned above, I think. Maybe I don't remember whether I mentioned there, but body plan is also very important, right? Body plan means what? Okay, it was mentioned, and I also mentioned that body plan means simple or basic structure of the body. Okay, basic structure. And what do we mean by basic structure? So here in basic structure, we just consider whether there are different openings as mouth or anus, or there is a single opening as mouth or anus. Okay. First one is the simplest one, that is cellular aggregation. Here there will be no formation of tissues, no differentiation of the cells to form tissues or organs. Okay. So this is the simplest one. There will be like no opening that will be acting as mouth or anus. Okay. No mouth. In this case, there will be no mouth and no anus. So how will the food particles move inside the body and the waste material will come out of the body? There will be different openings for that. Okay, different types of openings, but they will not be exactly mouth and anus. Okay. So the example is Porifera. We will discuss about Porifera. There we will see how the entry and exit of the particles will take place. But definitely the entry and exit of the particles will not take place through mouth or anus. Okay. So this is the simplest one. Then the second one is blind sac. In blind sac, what happens? There will be only one opening that will be acting as mouth, and the same opening will be acting as the anus. That means the entry of the food materials and the exit of the waste particles will be taking place through the same opening. Okay. In our body, is there only one opening for that? No, we have different openings, right? But in this blind sac body plan, there is only one opening, right? That means single opening will be acting as mouth and anus both, right? Examples will be coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Platyhelminthes. These three have blind sac body plan. That means they have only one opening that will be acting as mouth and hands. So here, the most important thing is example only. You have to focus on example, right? Coelenterata, Ctenophores, and Platyhelminthes have blind sac type of body plan. Then the next type is tube within tube body plan. This is the more advanced form of body plan, and this is present in the human beings as well. Right? So here what happens? Two separate openings will be present. One opening will be acting as mouth and the other opening will be acting as the anus. Okay. So here a diagram is given. You can see, what do you understand by tube within tube? That means there will be one tube and inside that tube there will be another tube, right? So you can take an example of a pen. If you take a transparent pen, there you can see that there will be the outer tube of the pen, and inside that tube there will be another thin tube that will have filled inks inside it. Okay. So we have tube inside a tube. So this is known as tube within tube type of plan. So in this type of plan, what will happen? There will be one opening on the upper side and the another opening at the lower side, right? Similarly, in our body, we have tube within tube type of body plan. So what is the first tube in our body? The outer body. Okay, the outer body is one tube, and then inside that there is an alimentary canal. That is another tube. Okay, so if you look at this diagram, here you can see the outer body. This is the outer body of human being. I'm giving example of human being. Inside that there will be alimentary canal. Both of them look like tubes, right? So there is a tube within a tube. And here you can see there is one opening on the top. This opening will be acting as the mouth. And there is another opening at the bottom, which will be acting as the anus. Okay. So the intake of food materials take place through the mouth, whereas the exit of waste particles takes place through the anus. So this is known as tube within tube body plan. And here the examples will be again Aschelminthes onwards. So most of the times you will see that Aschelminthes onwards, there is the most advanced type of organization. Okay. So here again, Aschelminthes, two chordates. They will have tube within tube body plans. Okay. Let's move further. Now we come to the symmetry. So I have already explained symmetry means what? The body will be able to divide into two equal halves. okay, through any plane. Again, there are different types. So first one can be asymmetric if the animals do not have any symmetry. That means if in any animal the body is unable to divide into two equal halves, then that animal will be known as asymmetrical. So you can see it is written body can't be divided into equal halves through any plane passing through the center. Okay, so no matter how much you try or no matter which plane you consider, you will not be able to divide the body into two equal halves. So this is known as asymmetry. Okay, for example, if we draw any structure like that, amoeba, suppose amoeba. Now, if amoeba, if you pass any plane through the center of the body, will the body be able to divide into two equal halves? No, the two halves are looking very different from each other. So you can consider more than one plane. So you can take this plane, you can take this plane, you can take this plane, but in none of those planes the body will be able to divide. Okay, so you will every time you will fail to divide the body into two equal halves. So this is known as asymmetrical, right? And the only animal that has the asymmetrical structure is the Porifera because this is the most ancient. Here I have given the example of amoeba, but amoeba does not belong to the animal kingdom, right? Here I have just taken this example to explain the symmetry, right? So here the simplest animal is Porifera. So the example of asymmetrical will be Porifera. Now we come to the radial symmetry. Radial symmetry is just the opposite. That means in every plane, the body will be able to divide into two equal halves. So suppose this is Ctenophora, the round body. Okay, Ctenophores have this type of round body. So it will be round like a ball, right? So no matter which plane you can take this plane, suppose plane A, you can take this plane, plane B, or any other plane. In all the planes, the body will be able to divide into two equal halves. So this type of symmetry is known as radial symmetry. Okay. So examples is Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Adam's Echinodermata. Okay, here you have to remember this, okay, because this is not in the proper sequence, so this can be quite confusing. Coelenterata and Ctenophores will definitely come together under the radial symmetry. Another example to be remembered specifically is this Echinodermata. Okay, Echinodermata in fact have both types of symmetry, radial and bilateral both, but the adults Echinodermata are radially symmetrical. So here you have to remember this word adults. These are the adult echinoderms which have radial symmetry. The larval forms will have bilateral symmetry. But what is bilateral symmetry? Let's see. In this, only one plane passing through the center can divide the body into two equal halves. That means the body will divide into two equal halves, but not in all the planes. Only there will be one specific plane through which it will divide into two equal halves. If you consider any other plane, other than that specific plane, then it will not divide into two equal halves. So this is known as bilateral symmetry. And most of the advanced animals have this type of symmetry. Okay. So Platyhelminthes onwards all have this bilateral symmetry. But there will be one exception, echinoderms. Adult echinoderms will have the radial symmetry. So this you have to note down. Whereas the larval form of Echinodermata will have the bilateral symmetry, right? So you can see this diagram and then you can understand. Here in the first diagram, you can see there is a starfish. Starfish belongs to which phylum? It belongs to Echinodermata. Okay, Echinodermata. Now we have studied that the larval Echinodermata has bilateral symmetry, but the adult Echinodermata has radial symmetry. That means it will be able to divide it into equal halves through all the planes. Okay, so here you can see there are so many planes considered in this starfish, and through all the planes, the starfish will divide into two equal halves. Okay, so this has radial symmetry. What type of symmetry? Radial symmetry. That means this is adult Echinodermata. Okay, this is the adult one. So this is the example of radial symmetry. Here you can see in the next diagram, the one plane is considered, let's say this is plane A, and through this the body is divided into two equal halves. Okay, so the left side and the right side are similar, right? But if you consider any other plane, suppose you consider this plane horizontally, will the body divide into two equal halves? No. The upper part and the lower part will look different from each other. If you consider any other plane, it will not divide into two equal halves. There is only one plane through which the body is dividing into two equal halves. So this is known as bilateral symmetry. I hope you understood the difference between radial symmetry and the bilateral symmetry. So this is the second one was bilateral symmetry. Got it? Now we come to another important basis of classification, that is the germ layers. Now what are germ layers? So we know that during the reproduction there is a phase of fertilization, right? What happens in fertilization? The males and female gametes fuse together to form zygotes. Let's write it down here. Here, the fusion of male and female gametes take place to form zygote. Then what happens? This zygote undergoes mitotic divisions to form the embryo. Then this embryo eventually develops further and form the adult body, right? This is the sequence. Now, in this development, in the embryonic stage, when the development is taking place, there is one phase. We know that this development takes place through various phases or various stages. So there will be one stage called gastrula. Gastrula. What happens in this phase? The cells of the body arrange themselves in the form of layers. Okay, the cells of the body will arrange themselves in the form of different layers. Okay, in zygote, the cells were not arranged in the form of layers, right? There was a ball of cells. Zygote was just a ball of cells, different cells together. But in embryo, specifically in this gastrula phase, the cells will arrange themselves in the form of different layers, and these layers are known as germ layers. Okay, and these germ layers will give rise to different types of organs. Okay. Now, in some animals, there can be only two germ layers at the embryonic stage, and in some other animals, if there can be more than two, that means three germ layers. So there is two possibility: either they can have two germ layers or they can have three germ layers. Okay, not more than three. So if they have two germ layers, then the outer one is known as ectoderm. Outer layer is known as ectoderm. Outer layer of cells. Outer layer of cells is known as ectoderm, whereas the inner layer of cell is known as endoderm. And it should be clear from the name only: ectoderm outside, endoderm inside. Okay. So this is for the diploblastic animals which have only two germ layers. Okay. In other animals, there are three germ layers. In that case, of course, the outer one will be known as ectoderm and the inner one will be known as endoderm. But there will be a third layer that will be present between the ectoderm and the endoderm, and that will be known as mesoderm. Okay, and these animals which have three germ layers are known as triploblastic. So did you get it? On the basis of the number of germ layers, the animals can be diploblastic or triploblastic. Diploblastic have only two germ layers, the ectoderm and endoderm, whereas the triploblastic animals have three germ layers, the ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. Okay, so here we have a diagram. You can understand through this. In this diagram, you can see there are two layers visible. Okay, so this is the suppose the cross sectional view. Okay, so the first outer layer is the ectoderm, and this inner layer is known as the endoderm. Now, what is the difference between diploblastic and triploblastic animal? Ectoderm and endoderm is common, right? This is present in both diploblastic as well as triploblastic. Now, in the diploblastic animal, in between these two layers, the third layer is not present. So, what is present? Here, the mass of undifferentiated cells are present, okay? So in between the ectoderm and endoderm, we are talking about the diploblastic, the animals having two germ layers. They do not have a third germ layer. So what is present between the ectoderm and endoderm in the case of diploblastic? Here there is a jelly-like mass of you can say undifferentiated cells, or you can say acellular. Okay, so this is undifferentiated cells, or you can say that this layer is the acellular layer, because the cells are not differentiated. Okay, this is acellular layer. This you can remember, right? Whereas in case of triploblastic, there will be another layer, that is mesoderm. So we will look at the diagram again that is mentioned in the NCERT. Okay, So this diagram is mentioned in the NCERT. Here you can see the first one is the diagram of the diploblastic germ layers. Okay, the first one is the diploblastic. Here you can see there is ectoderm, outer layer, endoderm, inner layer, and in between them there is an acellular layer, okay, mesoglia. What is the name of this acellular layer? Mesoglia. This is acellular. This is plain red color. You can see plain red color. This is mesoglia, that is mass of undifferentiated cells, okay, or you can say acellular layer. Now in the second diagram you can see this is the view of triploblastic animal. Here, let's write it down here, triploblastic. These are the germ layers of triploblastic animals. So here you can see outer layer is the ectoderm, inner blue color layer is the endoderm, and in between them in red color there are again layers of cells which are the mesoderms. Okay. So I hope you can differentiate between the mesoglia in diploblastic and mesoderm in triploblastic. Okay. So let's move forward. Now we will discuss the coelom, and coelom is related to the germ layers. Okay. How? Let's see. What is coelom? Coelom is nothing but the body cavity. This is body cavity. Cavity means empty spaces. Okay. Spaces. And why this body cavity is required? To place the organs, because we know that different germ layers will form the different organs of our body. So where will these organs be placed? These will be placed in the empty spaces, and these spaces are known as body cavity or coelom. Okay, so these are required to place the organs. Place the organs. Right now, here there can be again various possibilities. The animal can be eucoelomate, it can be pseudocoelomate, or it can be acoelomate. Right? Eucoelomate. Eu means what? True. That means true coelom will be present. In the animals where the true coelom is present, it is known as eucoelomate animals. Okay. Here true body cavity will be present, and this body cavity will be lined by the mesoderm on both sides. So why is it lined by mesoderm on the both the sides? Because this body cavity is formed by the split of the mesoderm. Okay, you must ask this question: how is this body cavity formed? So this body cavity is formed. It is formed by the split of the mesoderm. Okay, mesoderm. So we know that there is an outer layer. So suppose this is the outer layer called ectoderm. Okay. Then there will be an inner layer known as endoderm. Okay. So this is ectoderm and this is endoderm. In between the ectoderm and endoderm, what is present? Mesoderm. Right. So we have to make the body cavity. So how these body cavities will be formed? The mesoderm will split into two parts. So there will be two different layers of mesoderm on both the sides of the body cavity. Okay. So in between the ectoderm and endoderm, the mesoderm has split. So there will be one layer of mesoderm. This round shape is the mesoderm. Okay. One layer of mesoderm this side and one layer of mesoderm on another side. In between the mesoderm, what will be present? Empty spaces, and these spaces are known as body cavity. Body cavity or the coelom. Okay. So how is it formed? By the split of the mesoderm into two parts. So what did we discuss? We discussed that when the mesoderm splits into two parts, then in between the mesoderm, some space is created, and that space is known as the coelom. Okay, that is the body cavity or the coelom. That means on both sides of coelom, on the upper side and the lower side, the layer of mesoderm will be present. Right? Now, this is known as the true coelom. Okay, this is the correct method of the formation of coelom. In some animals, the coelom is present. That means the body cavity is present, but this is not formed in this method, by this method. Okay, this is formed in such a way that there are scattered pouches of mesoderm instead of two layers of mesoderm on both the sides. Okay, In simple case, what happens? The layer of mesoderm will be present on both sides of the coelom. But in this special type, what happens? The mesoderm will be present as the scattered pouches. Okay, it will divide in such a manner that it will exist as scattered pouches between the ectoderm and endoderm, and not as the two different layers. Okay, and this type of coelom is known as pseudocoelom or false coelom. Okay, pseudo means false, because this is not the correct way of formation of coelom. Okay, this is not the correct method of splitting of mesoderm, right? So this is known as pseudocoelom, and the animals that possess this type of coelom are known as pseudocoelomates. Okay. Now the third one is acoelomate. This should be very clear. A means without. Okay, absent. Coelom is absent. Okay, acoelomate means without a coelom. That means coelom will not be present, or the body cavity will be absent. Okay, it will be absent, and in place of body cavity, if mesoderm is present, then it will be simply a solid mesoderm. Okay, and if mesoderm is absent, then definitely it is impossible to form the coelom. Okay, now here I have not mentioned the example because I want you to guess the examples. Okay, only the exceptions I will tell you. Let's start with the acoelomate. Acoelomates means without a coelom or without a body cavity. So what will be what are the animals? What can be the examples in which definitely there is no chance of the presence of coelom? Can you guess? Definitely we know that in case of Porifera, coelom cannot be present. Why? Because in the Porifera, there is no like germ layers. Okay, there are no ectoderms, no endoderms, or no mesoderms. Okay, so there is no coelom, no chance of coelom in Porifera. So Porifera will be one of the examples. Let's write it down here. Porifera will be the example of acoelomate animals. What can be another example? Coelenterata and Ctenophora, we had discussed that these were diploblastic. Diploblastic means they have only two germ layers, the ectoderm and endoderm. They have no mesoderm. So if mesoderm is not present, how will it split to form the coelom? Definitely there is no chance of formation of coelom. So in coelentrates and ctenophores also, in coelentrates, and ctenophores, again the coelom will be absent, right? Now, other than these three, there is one more animal in which coelom is absent, and that is Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes, and this is the important one. Why? Because before Platyhelminthes, that means Porifera, Coelenterata, and Ctenophora, they have no chance of formation of coelom because of the absence of mesoderm. But in Platyhelminthes, mesoderm is present. Still, it does not split to form the coelom. So in this case, what will happen? Mesoderm will exist as a solid mesoderm. Okay. So these are the examples of acoelomate animals. Now, pseudocoelomate animals. So there is only one phylum which is pseudocoelomate, and that is Aschelminthes. Aschelminthes. And these are also known as roundworms or nematodes or nematohelminths. So these are pseudocoelomates. They have the false type of coelom. That means the mesoderm is not does not split into two parts, or it does not split as two layers, but it's split in such a way that it exists as a scattered pouch. Okay, so this is the example of pseudocoelomate. Which one? Aschelminthes. And now all the other phylums other than these will be eucoelomate, right? So that means Annelida onwards, or we can say Annelida to chordates will be the eucoelomate animals. All will have true coelom or true body cavity. Okay, so this is all about it. Now let's see the diagram that is mentioned in the NCERT. So this is the NCERT diagram. You can see first one, you can see we will not discuss about the ectoderm and endoderm because that is clear. Here, the coelom is formed by the mesoderm, so we will focus on the mesoderm only. In the first one, you can see that mesoderm has split into two parts. So one layer of mesoderm is present above and another layer is present below. In between this, there is empty space that is known as the coelom, okay, or the body cavity. In the second one, you can see that the mesoderm has split, but not as different layers, but it exists as scattered pouches. You can see these are scattered pouches. And the empty space is known as pseudocoelom, and these are the scattered pouches of mesoderm. scattered pouches of mesoderm. So what is this? This is pseudocoelom. This is pseudocoelom. Whereas the first one was true coelom or eucoelom. And the last one, here you can see that the mesoderm has not split at all. So this is acoelom, or the animal will be known as acoelomate. Okay, no split of mesoderm. There is solid mesoderm. There is solid mesoderm. Which animal has solid mesoderm? Platyhelminthes. Okay. Others that, such as Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Porifera, they do not have the mesoderm, so there is no chance of formation of the coelom. So I hope you understood the coelom. Now we come to the next characteristic that can act as the basis of the classification. So this is segmentation, that is also known as metamerism. So what is segmentation? See, body can be externally, internally, or both externally as well as internally divide into segments with serial repetition at some organs. Okay, so suppose this is the body. This is the body of the cockroach, suppose. So here you can see that the body is divided into segments. Okay, and it is divided in such a way that there will be serial repetition of at least some of the organs. Okay, and this characteristic is known as segmentation or metamerism. Okay, this type of division can be external only, it can be only internal, or it can be both external as well as internal. Okay, so this is segmentation, and what are the examples? So Annelida, Arthropoda, and Chordates. These three have segmentation. Okay, we will discuss in detail when we will discuss the individual phylums. Okay, so Annelida, Arthropoda, and Chordata. Here you have to remember the examples. Then we'll move to the next characteristic, that is the notochord. Again, the presence or absence of notochord can be an important basis of classification because notochord is an important part. Okay, so what is notochord? It is a rod-like mesodermally derived structure exclusively present in chordates. So here you don't have to confuse about the examples. The only thing you have to remember that all the chordates will have the notochord and all the non-chordates will not have the notochord. Okay, so only one phylum, that is chordates, have this notochord. Okay, and this is a rod-like mesodermally derived structure. We have discussed that the different germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, give rise to different organs. Okay, so different organs are derived from different layers. So this notochord is derived from which germ layer? It is derived from the mesoderm. Okay, it is formed by the mesoderm. Therefore, this is given that it is mesodermally derived structure. Similarly, another example of mesodermally derived organ is heart. You must have heard that our heart is also mesodermally derived. That means it is made up of mesoderm. Okay, it has a mesodermal origin. So this notochord also has mesodermal origin. Okay, and it is present only in the chordates, exclusively in the chordates. Here, this is the diagram. We will look at this diagram again when we will discuss the chordates. There we will see what is nerve cord, what is notochord, what is post and alt. This is the diagram. Okay. Now, another important basis of classification can be the digestive system, circulatory system, or respiratory system of the animals. Okay. So let's start with the digestive system. It can be incomplete digestive system or it can be complete digestive system. Okay, we don't have to go into detail of these systems because there are dedicated chapters for them. Here we just have to remember the examples, which animals have which type of digestive system or circulatory system. Okay, so few minutes ago we had discussed about the body plan. Okay, there you would remember we had discussed about the blind sac body plan, blind sac. And there was another type of body plan, that is tube within tube, tube within tube type of body plan. Okay, what did we discuss in blind sac body plan? There we discussed that there was single opening that would be acting as mouth as well as anus. Okay, that means the entry of the food particle and the exit of the waste materials takes place through the same opening because there is only single opening. Okay, so single opening is present, single opening. in case of blind sac body plan. So, what kind of digestion will take place in such animals? Incomplete digestion will take place. Okay, because food is related to digestion, right? Food that we are in, the food that we are taking is going to be digested eventually. So, the blind sac body plan means they will have the incomplete digestion. Okay, so all the animals that had blind sac body plan will also have incomplete digestion. Examples will be coelentrates, ctenophores, and platyhelminthes. Okay, so they have blind sac body plan or incomplete digestion. Similarly, tube within tube body plan means what? There were two separate openings. Two separate openings were present, and one opening was acting as mouth, whereas another opening was acting as anus. Okay, so the entry of food particles and the exit of waste material was taking place through two different openings. Okay, and that type of digestion will be known as complete digestion. Okay, so as helminths to chordates, they all have the complete digestion. Okay, because they have tube within tube body plan. These are more advanced type of animals. Got it? So what is more important? The examples. Again and again I'm saying you have to remember the examples. Now the next thing is respiratory system. So here you just have to remember that the respiratory system starts from the arthropoda. Okay. Do you remember the sequence of phylums? I have asked you to remember the sequence. Okay. Porifera, Coelenterata, then Ctenophora, then Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, then Annelida, Arthropoda, then Mollusca, Hemichordata, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and then Chordata. You have to remember this particular sequence. So in this sequence, when you come to the Arthropoda, then the respiratory system will start. All the phylums that were present before the Arthropoda will not have the respiratory system. They will have another method of respiration, but not respiratory system. Arthropoda onwards, respiratory system will be present. Okay. Then we come to the circulatory system. Circulatory system starts with Annelida. All the phylums before Annelida do not possess the circulatory system, whereas Annelida onwards circulatory system will be present. Again, the circulatory system will also be of two different types. It can be open circulatory system or it can be closed circulatory system. Open circulatory system means what? That the blood does not flow within the blood vessels. They flow into open spaces. Okay, these flow into the open spaces. Therefore, this is known as open circulatory system. And here, how can you remember the examples? Just remember this word, anthe. A-N-T-H-E, anthe. If you remember this, you can remember the examples of open circulatory system. Here A for Arthropoda, okay, N for non-cephalopod mollusca. So here not all mollusca have the same type of circulatory system. Okay, they are cephalopod mollusca and non-cephalopod mollusca that we will discuss in detail later. But here just remember that the non-cephalopod mollusca will have the open circulatory system, whereas the cephalopod will have another type of circulatory system. Okay, then A for Arthropoda, let's write it down here. A for Arthropoda, N for non-cephalopod mollusca, non-cephalopod mollusca. Then T for what? T for tunicates. Tunicates are also known as urochordates. That also we will discuss. T for tunicates or urochordates. H for hemichordata and E for echinodermata. So these are the examples of all the animals which have open type of circulatory system. That means in the bodies of these animals, the blood does not flow inside the blood vessel. They flow into open spaces. Whereas the second type of circulatory system means the blood will flow into the vessels. Okay, there are specialized vessels into which the blood has to flow. Okay, and all the animals other than these anthe, that means Arthropoda, non-cephalopod mollusca, tunicates, hemichordates, and echinodermata. Other than these, all will have the closed circulatory system. Okay, but remember that it starts with the Arthropoda. Okay, all the animals before Arthropoda do not have circulatory system, neither open nor closed. Now, this was all about the basis of classification. We have discussed all the basis of classification. Here is the summary of what we have just studied. Okay, so this is the table that is given in your NCERT as well. Here we have the kingdom. What kingdom we are studying? We are studying the kingdom Animalia, which are multicellular. So these are also known as metazoans. Metazoans. Then we discussed the levels of organization. We discussed that the phylum Porifera has the cellular level of organization because this is a more ancient type, more primitive type of animal, whereas the others have either tissue level or organ system level of organization. Okay, we discussed each of them. Then under the second category, that means when there is tissue or organ system level of organization, symmetry can be present. Okay, and the symmetry can be radial symmetry or bilateral symmetry. Okay, so what were the examples of radial symmetry? We had discussed that coelentrates and ctenophores, these two have radial symmetry. And one more thing we had discussed, radial symmetry, adult echinoderms. This also you have to remember. Adult echinoderms also have radial symmetry. Okay, then bilateral symmetry means the body will divide into two equal halves only in one specific plane. So we also discussed the examples of bilateral symmetry, and the larval echinoderms belong have this bilateral symmetry. Okay, then we discussed that the body cavity can be present or it can be absent. If the body cavity is present, then it can be a true body cavity or it can be a false body cavity. So first one is without body cavity, that means acoelomates. These have no body cavity. So example is Platyhelminthes. Definitely Coelenterata and Ctenophora also do not have body cavity because they do not have mesoderm. Okay, but Platyhelminthes is important because despite having mesoderm, it does not have body cavity because in this case the mesoderm does not split. Okay, then false coelom or pseudocoelomate means what? That the mesoderm will split, but it will split in such a manner that it will exist as scattered pouches. Okay, and only one example of pseudocoelomate is Aschelminthes, and all the animals Annelida onwards, that means from Annelida to Chordata, all will be coelomates. They will have true coelom or true body cavity. Okay. That means what will happen? The mesoderm will split in between, and in between the mesoderm, body cavity or coelom will be present, whereas on both sides of the coelom, a layer of mesoderm will be present. So this is true coelom. And these type of animals are known as true coelomate or eucoelomates. Okay, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata. These are the true coelomate animals. So I hope you have understood what are the things or what are the criteria that we are going to keep in mind while classifying the animals or while categorizing the animals. Okay, so all these things were used, and then we have categorized them into different phylums. Let's revise the phylums again. What are the phylums? Let's come here. We'll move up because the names of the phylum is very important, and at the same time the sequence of the phylum is also important. Okay, so the first one is Porifera, then Coelenterata, then Ctenophora, then Platyhelminthes, then Aschelminthes, then Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and Chordata. Just remember this sequence. Okay, then it will be very easy to understand this chapter. Okay, so now let's start with each of the phylums. Okay, the first phylum that we have to discuss is the Porifera, which belongs to the group Parazoa, right? And we know that the poriferans are the most primitive type of animals. So all the characteristics of Porifera will also be very primitive. So let's start with the general characteristics of Porifera. First one is habit and habitat. So you can analyze yourself what should be the habit and habitat of Porifera. We have discussed in the previous chapter that always the primitive type of organisms live in water. Okay, so they all are aquatic. Gradually, when the organisms become more advanced, then they shift towards the land. Okay, so gradually they come from water, they live near water, and then the distance increases. Okay, so these are the most primitive type of animals, so definitely they will be living in water only. So all will be aquatic. Okay, all are aquatic, and most of them are marine. So mostly they are marine, mostly marine, and there are very few fresh water, very few fresh water. Now, what should be the level of organization? Definitely these are the most primitive. There is only cellular aggregation. So the level of organization will be cellular. Okay, there is cellular level of organization. LO in short I have written for level of organization. Similarly, BP I have written in short for body plan. Now what is the body plan of poriferans? There is simply again cellular aggregation. Cellular aggregation. There is no blind sac also, because even for blind sac body plan, at least tissues are required. But in the bodies of poriferans, the cells are not organized into tissues. So there is simple cellular aggregation, and this is the only phylum in which simple cellular aggregation is seen. Okay, then GL. GL means what? Germ layer. Okay, in short, I have written germ layer. So, what about the germ layers? Is there any germ layer in their body? No, because how the germ layers are formed, we have discussed that the germ layers are formed when the cells of the body at the embryonic stage arrange themselves in the layers, different layers. But here there is no such arrangement of the cells. There is simply aggregation of the cells. So, there is no germ layer. Okay, no germ layer, or we can say the germ layers are absent. Then we come to the coelom. Now we have seen that the coelom is the body cavity that is formed by the mesoderm, right? But here there are no germ layers, no ectoderms, no endoderms, and no mesoderms. So how will coelom will formed? No, it will not be formed. So again, coelom is also absent. Then we come to the symmetry. So is there any symmetry in the body of poriferans? No, this is asymmetrical. Okay. All the members of this phylum are asymmetrical. Then what about segmentation? No segmentation is found, and no notochord is found, because we have already discussed notochords are found only in the chordates. Okay, in none other phylums notochord will be seen. So this was the general characteristics. Now another thing you should note about the poriferans is that poriferan means pore bearers. Okay, pore bearers. This is the literal meaning of the porifera. Pore bearer means what? They will have small and large pore all over their body. Okay, so there will be different types of pores. There will be numerous small pores, and there will be one large pore. Okay, one or single large pore. Now, these small pores which are present on all over the body are known as ostia. Okay, these are known as ostia. And one single large pore is known as osculum. So, this is the most important thing about poriferans. This is your osculum. Okay. So why they are known as pore bearers? Because all over their body they have different types of pores. Okay, there are numerous small pores which are known as ostia, and there is a single large pore that is known as osculum. Okay, and these poriferans are also known as sponges. Okay, the common name of poriferans is sponges. Okay, now let's move further. Water canal system. We are going to discuss the most important characteristic of the poriferans. Okay, in all the phylums you will see there will be at least one special characteristics that is found only in that particular phylum. Okay, similarly, therefore this phylum has one important characteristic, that is the water canal system. What is water canal system? See, we know that the poriferans live in water. Okay, they are all aquatic, no doubt. So all the types of processes such as digestion, excretion, respiration, all will be taking place through water only. Okay, they cannot move outside the water. So everything will take place through the water or with the help of water. Okay. Even in case of digestion, they have to take the nutrition through food. So how the food will move inside the body? Through water. Okay, we know that they do not have mouth or anus. Okay, so how will this movement take place? This movement will take place through the pores that are present on their body. Okay, and all the particles, whether it is food particle or whether it is oxygen for respiration, all will move with the help of water. Okay, so what will happen? Water will enter the body through the small pores that are present all over the body known as ostia. Okay, so water will enter into these small pores known as ostia. Then when it enters the body, it will enter the cavity known as spongiocele. So the body cavity, what is spongiocele? This is the cavity of the sponges, the body cavity of the sponges. So this is body cavity. And this is not the body cavity that is formed by the mesoderm. Okay, this is not coelom. This is the simple open space inside the body. Okay, so this is known as spongiocele, that is found only in the poriferans. And then the waste materials or anything that has to be excreted out will come out through the osculum. Okay, so ostia is the pores through which the particles enter the body, and osculum is the large pore through which the exit of the particles take place. Okay, and this water canal system helps in various processes such as digestion, respiration, excretion, and transfer of gametes. That means reproduction. So even in case of reproduction, the gametes will enter the body through these pores only. Okay, with the help of water. So let's have a look at this diagram. See, can you see that there are small pores? These are the small pores. Okay, there are numerous pores all over the body of the porifera or the sponges. And these pores are known as ostia. These are none other than the ostia. Okay, through these pores, water will enter into the body. Water will enter, and water will be accompanied by the food particles or gametes or anything that is required. Okay, even the oxygen that is required for respiration is part of this water only. Okay, so water will enter through these pores, all these pores, and then this empty space, not empty but the space, open space inside the body is known as spongiocele. This is the spongiocele. Okay, body cavity. This is the body cavity. And then what will happen? See, here you can see that the body has two different layers. Okay, this is the outer layer. Can you see? Outer layer. And below this, there is an inner layer. So again, this is important to note that the body of the poriferan is made up of two different layers, outer layer and inner layer. Okay. Now this inner layer will contain some cells. Okay. Some cells will be present on this inner layer. So suppose this is the inner layer of the body. This is the inner layer. And some cells are present like this. And these cells will bear flagella. Okay, so flagella will be present on these cells. And what are these cells called? These cells are known as collar cells. Collar cells. Or these are also known as choanocytes. Choanocytes. So what is the name of these cells? These are known as collar cells or choanocytes, okay? And they bear flagella. So these are flagellated cells, okay? So there will be flagellated cell on the inner layer of the body of the poriferans. Now what is the role of these cells? So you can see that these cells have flagella. And flagella will help in the movement of the particles, or you can say the movement of water throughout the body. So water will enter through the ostia, that means the small pores on the body. Then with the help of these choanocytes or these flagella of the choanocytes, the water will move inside the body. Okay. So these choanocytes will help in the movement of water. Movement of water. And then the waste particles will move out through this larger pore that is known as osculum. Okay, so this large pore is known as osculum. Through this, the waste materials will be excreted out again with the help of water. Got it? I hope you understood this. Now, our body contains skeleton made up of bones. Okay, so we have skeleton. Similarly, these poriferans also have skeleton, but these are not made up of bones or cartilage. So what are they made up of? These skeleton supporting structure made up of calcium or silicon spicules or the spongial fibers. Okay, so their skeleton of the poriferans are made up of calcium or silicon spicules or spongyl fibers. Again, this is an important point to note. Okay. So we have discussed the important characteristic of the poriferan, that was water canal system. Now we come to the physiology. So in physiology, we have to remember that digestion is always intracellular. That means digestion takes place inside the cell. Okay, inside the cell or within the cell. So the digestion is intracellular. Okay. Then what about respiration? Respiration again takes place through general body surface because they do not have tissues or organs. So general body surface will be helpful here. Then nothing about circulation or excretion is mentioned in the NCERT. So I haven't written anything. Okay. What about the reproduction? So first of all, we have to know that they are hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite means what? That the sexes are not separate. Sexes are not separate. What does this mean? It means that both the sexes, male as well as female, are found inside the same body. Okay, so this type is also known as bisexual. That means inside the same body, both the sexes, two sexes are present, so bisexual. Or it is also known as monoecious. Mono means one. So both the sexes are present inside one body, therefore it is known as monoecious. Okay. And both sexual and asexual type of reproduction can take place. If asexual reproduction is taking place, then it is mostly fragmentation. Okay, which type of asexual reproduction takes place? Fragmentation takes place. What about fertilization? Fertilization is internal. That means it takes place inside the body. Okay, then development is indirect. What is meant by indirect development? That means the development will take place through the larval stage. Okay, indirect means it will take place through larval stages. Larval stages. That means larva will be formed. That will look different from the adult. Okay. Then later on it will develop further to form the adult body, which will be different from the larva in appearance. Okay. So it was all about the poriferans. Here we have some examples. You can see we have spongia. Can you look at this diagram? Spongia. The first diagram is that of euspongia, that is also known as bath sponge. Okay. So the sponge that you use to bath looks similar to this, right? So therefore, this is also known as bath sponge. The second type is spongilla. Spongilla is the freshwater sponge. We know that most of the sponges or most of the poriferans are marine. Okay, they live in the marine environment. But there are few freshwater sponges also. This is one of them, spongilla. So here you have to remember this. This is more important because there are very few freshwater sponges and this is one of them. So this will be important. Okay. Then the third one is siphon, that is also known as skypha. Now here the pictures that I have taken are different from the ones which are mentioned in the NCERT. Okay. So what's more important for you to remember? The ones which are given in the NCERT, because in examination, the same diagrams or pictures are copied from the NCERT. Okay. So those are most important. Here I have mentioned these so that you can easily see, you can clearly see what they exactly look like. Okay. So have a look at this. Now I'm moving to the next phylum, that is the Coelenterata. Okay. So before starting the Coelenterata, let's once again revise what we read in the Poriferan. We know that they have a special characteristic known as the water canal system. Why? Because all the movement, all the important processes such as digestion, excretion, respiration or reproduction takes place through the water. Okay. Now, what about the body of the poriferans? They have small pores all over the body. These small pores are known as ostia. Through these pores, the water enters into the body. Okay. Then there is one single large pore that is known as osculum, through which the water moves out of the body. Okay. Then their body has two layers, an outer layer and an inner layer. Okay. Inner layer will have some special type of cells which are known as polar cells or choanocytes, and these are flagellated cells. That means they have flagella on them. Okay. And what is the role of these flagella? These flagella help in the movement of the water inside the body or inside the cavity known as spongocoel. Okay. So I hope you understood this. Now we come to the second phylum, that is Coelenterata. And why they are known as Coelenterata? Because they have the special type of cat, not special type of, but their body cavity is known as cylindron. You can simply remember this. They have the body cavity known as cylindron. Cylindron. Simply you can remember this. This is the body cavity. So on the name of this body cavity, cylindron, they have been named as Coelenterata. Okay, and they are also known as Cnidaria because they have special type of cells known as cnidocytes. Okay, they have special type of cells known as cnidocytes or cnidoblasts. Cnidoblast. So these are special type of cells which are found in their body. Therefore, these are also known as cnidarians. Okay, and the phylum is known as Cnidaria. So again, we'll start with the general characteristics similar to what we did in poriferans. What about the habit and habitat? Again, these are also definitely more advanced than the poriferans, but still they are less advanced than most of them. So these are also aquatic. Okay, these are also aquatic, both marine and freshwater. Then what about the level of organization? We have discussed that only in Porifera there is cellular level of organization, whereas in Coelenterata and the next one, that is the Ctenophora, which type of, what will be the level of organization? Tissue level of organization. Okay, so there is a tissue level of organization because in their case the cells are organized into tissue to perform specific functions. Okay, we have already discussed when we were discussing the basis of classifications, right? Then we come to the body plan. BP means body plan. So what is the body plan? Here tissue is present. Okay. In case of poriferan, only cell were present. So there was cellular aggregation. But here tissues are present. So there is a blind sac type of body plan. Okay. Blind sac body plan. Got it? And what do we mean by blind sac body plan? We had discussed that when there is only a single opening for the entry of food particles and for the exit of the waste materials, then it is known as blind sac. Okay. Now we come to the GL. GL means for germ layers. So these are the coelentrates and the ctenophores are diploblastic animals, right? We have discussed these are diploblastic. And what do we mean by diploblastic? It means they have only two germ layers. Diploblastic means they have only two germ layers. One is ectoderm, outer one is ectoderm, and the inner one is endoderm. Okay, there is no mesoderm. So ectoderm and endoderms are present, so they are diploblastic. What about coelom? Coelom is made up by the splitting of the mesoderm. Here there are no mesoderm, so no coelom will be found. Okay, so these are acoelomate. Acoelomate. Got it? What about symmetry? Again, they are asymmetrical. Sorry, these are not asymmetrical. These are radially symmetrical. Have we discussed this? Yes, we have discussed that these are radially symmetrical. Radially symmetrical. What are other phylums that are radially symmetrical? Ctenophores are also radially symmetrical, the next phylum. And other than that, there are the adult echinoderms. Okay, so here you have to remember the adult echinoderms are also radially symmetrical. Okay, whereas the larval form is bilaterally symmetrical. Now, what about notochord? Obviously, it will be absent. Notochord is absent because notochords will be present only in the chordates. Okay, so this was about the general characteristics. Now, here we'll come to the important characteristic of the coelentrates. Okay, or the characteristic feature of the coelentrates. So here, this is the most important part of coelentrates. So please pay attention. Coelentrates have two body forms. There are two types of body forms which are possible in case of coelentrates. First one is known as polyp. The other one is known as medusa. Now let's see what are the characteristics of polyp and medusa. So in case of polyp, the body is cylindrical. How does it look? So it is cylindrical. That means it will look something like this. Cylindrical. Okay, so this kind of body is found in case of polyp. These are cylindrical and these are sessile. Sessile means what? These are immovable. Okay, these are immovable. They are like they are not capable of moving around. Okay, so these are immovable. These are fixed at one position. Okay, then these undergo asexual reproduction. These are asexual forms. That means they will undergo asexual reproduction. Okay, so these are the characteristics of polyp form. Now we come to the medusa form. Medusa form is not a cylindrical. How it looks? It is umbrella like. That means it looks something like this, like umbrella. Okay, like this. Looking at this figure, you will instantly be reminded of the jellyfish. Okay, jellyfish looks like this. So jellyfish is also a type of medusa. Okay, medusa form. So these look like umbrella and these are free swimming. So what is the main difference? That the polyp forms are sessile, they cannot move around, whereas the medusa forms are free swimming, they can easily swim inside the water. Okay, and another difference is that the polyp form was asexual form, whereas the medusa form is sexual form. That means it will undergo sexual reproduction. Okay. Now, so we saw that some coelentrates are asexual forms. That means some coelentrates will undergo only asexual reproduction, whereas some other coelentrates known as the medusa form will undergo sexual mode of reproduction. And there are some exceptional coelentrates which will undergo both types of reproduction, sexual and asexual both. Okay, and this characteristic is known as metagenesis or alternation of generation, and this is the most important characteristic of the coelentrates. Okay, very important. So here what happens, both polyp and medusa form will be present because both asexual and sexual reproduction has to take place. So polyp is what? Asexual form, so it will undergo asexual reproduction to form the medusa. Okay, it will undergo asexual reproduction to form medusa. Then medusa will undergo sexual reproduction to form polyp, because medusa is the sexual form. Okay, so polyp is asexual form, so it will undergo asexual reproduction to form the medusa, and medusa is sexual form, so it will undergo sexual reproduction to form the polyp. So this is known as alternation of generation. From polyp medusa will be formed, and from medusa polyp will be formed. Okay, now, what are the examples of these? So, Obelia is the best example that is mentioned in your NCERT. And other than this, Physalia, that is known as Portuguese man of war, also undergoes alternation of generation. Okay, but Obelia is most important because this is mentioned in the NCERT. Okay, now we come to the physiology. I would like to mention one more characteristic, that they have an exoskeleton that is made up of calcium carbonate. Okay, therefore these are also known as corals. Okay, their exoskeleton is made up of calcium carbonate. Therefore these are also known as corals. Got it? So here you will see one of the examples known as brain coral. Okay, and why they are known as coral? Because they have calcium carbonate in their exoskeleton. Now we come to the physiology. So we will study the only physiology that are mentioned in the NCERT. Will not discuss others. Okay, because only what is mentioned in the NCERT are important. So digestion. Digestion is incomplete. Why incomplete digestion? Because we have discussed that they have blind sac type of body plan. Blind sac means there is only one opening for the entry of food and the exit of waste particles. So this type of digestion is known as incomplete digestion. So they have incomplete digestive system, and both extracellular and intracellular digestion can take place. So this is given in your NCERT. Then what about reproduction? So both sexual and asexual form of reproduction can take place. We have already seen that in the polyp form, asexual reproduction will take place. In the medusa form, sexual form of reproduction will take place. And in some like Obelia, both will take place. Okay, so both are possible. Now, so one of the important characteristics was the alternation of generation. Another important characteristic is the presence of cnidocyte or the cnidoblast. That is why they are known as the cnidarians. Why they are known as cnidarian? Because of the presence of this cell, special type of cell, cnidocyte or cnidoblast. Okay, and these cells are present in the body wall and the tentacles. Now, here you have to pay attention. What is cnidocyte? Site means cell. So nidocytes are the cells, and these are also known as nidoblast. Now inside that cell, there are special type of capsules which are known as nematocyst. So nematocyst is the capsule that is found inside the cell known as nematocytes or nematoblast. Sorry, nidocytes or nidoblast. Okay, so here we often get confused between the cells and the capsules. Even I get confused many times. So just remember the names. Nidocytes or nidoblast are the cells, and nematocysts are the capsules found inside these cells. Okay, and these capsules are filled with poison. Why they are filled with poison? In order to protect them from their predators, okay, and also to catch their prey. Okay, so what are the functions of these nidocytes or nidoblasts? Anchorage, then capturing of prey. When they are acting as predators, then they will need to capture their prey. In that it will help. And when they are acting as the prey and there are predators outside, then they have to uh, defend themselves from the predators. In that also it will help. Okay, so it helps in anchorage, then it helps in offense, that means capturing of prey, as well as in defense, that means protecting themselves from the predators. Okay, so here look at this diagram in order to understand how these cells work. I hope this diagram is clear to you. So in the first diagram, you can see there is a cell. This is oval shaped cell, that is the nidocyte. Okay, so this is nidocyte. Now inside the nidocyte, you can see red color capsule. In red color, capsule is given. So this capsule is the nematocyst. Okay, nematocyst capsule located inside the nidocyte. Now, around this capsule, you can see that a thread is wrapped. Okay, a thread is wrapped around the capsule. Okay, this is the resting time of this nidocyte, because in this case, no need of the nidocyte is required. Okay, that means there is no need of defense, or there no need to capture the prey. Therefore, these are in their resting stage. But when there is an emergency situation, that means when there is a like prey to catch, or there is a predator to defend itself, then what will happen? Suddenly this cell will push the capsule outside. Okay, so initially the capsule was present inside the cell, but when there is emergency condition, then this capsule will come out of the cell, and the thread that was wrapped around the capsule will open like this. Okay, so in the second diagram, you can see there is an emergency situation. The capsule has to come outside the cell, and the thread has to open. And then through this thread, through or with the help of this thread, the poison of the capsule will be transferred to the predator or prey. Okay, so this is the general mechanism. Also, this is not mentioned in detail in NCERT, but still I told you. Now, we have examples. So various examples of the cylinderates were given in the NCERT. These are Adamsia, and all the examples you have to remember, because I've already told you that more than the characteristics or more than the physiology, the examples are important. Okay, you have to, you cannot afford to forget the examples. Okay, so the first example is Adamsia, that is also known as sea anemone. So all the examples have their common names also, so you have to remember both. Adamsia means sea anemone, then Physalia, known as Portuguese man of war, Aurelia, that is nothing but the jellyfish, then Meandria, that is known as brain coral. Why they are known as coral? Because their exoskeleton is made up of calcium carbonate. Okay, calcium carbonate. This is also one of the important characteristics of cylinderates. Then the next example is Penatula, that is also known as sea pen, and Gorgonia, known as sea pan. I would recommend that you just search these examples and see their real pictures. So it will be interesting to learn their names. Okay, just learning and not having visual examples will not help. Okay, so here I have mentioned three pictures, three examples of pictures of three examples. First one is Aurelia, that is jellyfish. Look, this is how the jellyfish looks. Then Physalia. What is another name of Physalia? Portuguese man of war. Okay, this is nothing but the Portuguese man of war. The second figure. The second picture is that of Portuguese man of war. Portuguese man of war. And the third one is Meandria. Meandria, what is the common name of Meandria? It is known as brain coral. Brain coral. Why? Because it looks like brain. Can you see? This is looking like a brain. So this is known as brain coral. So this was all about the coelentrates. One thing that I missed out is in NCERT it is mentioned that the mouth is located on the hypostome. Okay, there's one line. Hypostome. Hypostome means what? Hypostome. Hypo means below. Okay, hypo means below and stoma means mouth. So there is a structure that is located below the mouth that is known as hypostome. Okay, and on the hypostome, what will be located? Mouth will be located. So let's start with the third phylum, that is Ctenophora. Okay, animals belonging to this phylum are known as ctenophores. So these animals are commonly known as comb jellies or sea walnuts. And these names are given to them mainly because of their appearance. Okay, their body looks very soft, just like jellies. Therefore, these are known as comb jellies. And sea walnuts because of the shape. Okay, in shape they resemble the walnuts. And why comb? Because they have comb plates. Okay, because of the presence of comb plates, these are known as comb jellies. So the second point is the presence of comb plates, and these comb plates help in locomotion. Okay, what are comb plates? Here you can see this diagram. This is the diagram of Pleurobrachia, one of the ctenophores. So you can see this round shape, and in this red color round shape, you can see blue linings. Okay, blue linings. These blue linings are nothing but the comb plates. Okay, these are the comb plates. And how many comb plates are there? Just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Total 8 comb plates. So there are 8 external rows of comb plates. 8 external rows. Okay. Not 8 pairs, but 8 in number. Or you can say 4 pairs. So there are 8 external rows of comb plates, and these comb plates help in the locomotion. Okay, and one of the most important characteristics of ctenophores is the property of bioluminescence. That means the property of emission of light. They are able to emit light from their body. This is known as bioluminescence. This is the exclusive feature of ctenophores. Okay. Now let's come to the general characteristics. So we will discuss the general characteristics as usual. First thing is habit and habitat. So we saw in Porifera, they were all aquatic, but mostly they were marine. Okay, few lived in fresh water. Similarly, in Coelenterata also, they both lived in both the marine environment as well as fresh water, but mostly they were also marine. But here you have to note that they are exclusively marine. That means no ctenophore lives in the fresh water. All of them live in the marine environment. That means sea water. Okay, got it. Now, the second point is level of organization. Again, we have already discussed that most of the characteristics of the coelentrates and ctenophores will be similar. So, coelentrates were also had also tissue level of organization. So, they also have tissue level of organization. Then what about the body plan? Same as the coelentrates, the blind sac type of body plan. Other than this, which one phylum has blind sac? So Platyhelminthes also has blind sac body plan. The next one. Okay. Then what about the germ layers? Same as the coelentrates, diploblastic. That means they have only two layers, two germ layers, the ectoderm and the endoderm. So they are diploblastic. And since they have only two layers, they do not have mesoderm. So because of the absence of the mesoderm, no coelom will be formed, right? So they will be acoelomate again. And what is symmetry? Same as the coelentrates, radial symmetry. Okay, radial symmetry is found in coelentrates, ctenophores, and the adult echinoderms. Okay, so this you have to remember. Then segmentation and notochord both will be absent, right? Now let's come to the physiology. This is the very small phylum. Okay, this is the smallest phylum that you have to study. Now we come to the physiology. What about the digestion? Definitely that digestion will be incomplete digestion, or we can say that they will have incomplete digestive system. Why? Because they have blind sac body plan. That means they have only one opening which will be acting as mouth and anus. So this type of digestion is known as incomplete digestion. Okay, and both intra and extracellular, that means digestion can take place inside the cell as well as outside the cell. Okay, then reproduction, they are also bisexual. That means both male and female sexes will be present inside the same body, and definitely sexual reproduction will take place. Then fertilization, in this case external fertilization will take place. That means fertilization will take place outside the body. Okay, and then development is indirect. That means the development will take place through the larval stages. It will take place through larval stages. So this was all about the ctenophores. All you have to remember is that they are known as comb jellies or sea walnuts. They have 8 external rows of comb plates which helps in the locomotion. Okay, and these comb plates are ciliated. Okay, remember these are ciliated comb plates. Ciliated comb plates. This is the most important characteristic. Ciliated comb plates, and another important characteristic is that they have the property of bioluminescence. Bioluminescence. So these are the two important things that you have to remember here, nothing else. Other things such as general characteristics you can easily analyze depending on how you have studied the earlier part of this chapter. Okay, so ciliated means that they have small cilia present on the surface. So this was all about the ctenophores. Let's have a look at the examples. In NCERT, two examples are given, pleurobrachia and ctenoplana. So here you can see the pictures. First one is pleurobrachia and second one is ctenoplana. In both of them, you can easily see the emission of light. Okay, that is why I have added these pictures, not the same as NCERT, because here the emission of light is clearly visible. Okay, so this is more interesting one, right? Now let's move to the next phylum, that is the Platyhelminthes. How many phylums we have already discussed? 3 phylums, Porifera, Coelenterata and Ctenophora. Now platyhelminths. So platyhelminths come in between the first group and the second group. So every phylum that we have studied till now can be grouped into one category, and the next one after platyhelminths is another category, because most of the characteristics of the former ones, that means Porifera, Coelenterata and Ctenophores, were primitive type, and most of the characteristics of Aschelminthes onwards will be advanced types. But Platyhelminthes comes in between. Some of the characteristics will be similar to the earlier ones and some of the characteristics will be similar to the later ones. Okay. Now, first of all, Platyhelminthes. What is the literal meaning of Platyhelminthes? Platy means flat. It means flat. And helminths means worms. So this is why they are also known as flatworms. What is another name of platyhelminths? Flatworms. And why they are known as flatworms? Because their body is dorsoventrally flattened. Their body is very flat. Okay, so they have dorsoventrally flattened body, hence called flatworms. Very simple. Then these are mostly endoparasites, although they can be free living as well, but they are also parasites. They also act as parasites, and mostly they are endoparasites. That means they live inside the body of animals, or even in our body they can be found. Okay, so mostly they are endoparasites, and endoparasites mean what? They will derive nutrition from our body. Okay, so the next point is some of them absorb nutrients directly through their body surface. So this was given in NCERT, so I've mentioned this. Now we come to the parasitic adaptation. We have seen that they are mostly endoparasites, that they will live inside the body of the host. Okay, so they are parasite, and the animal or any organism inside which they will be found, that will be known as host. Okay, so suppose if the platyhelminths is found in our body, then we will act as the host and they will act as the parasite. Okay, so we know that if any parasite enters into our body, our immune system tries to protect us from the parasite. Okay, so our immune system tries to kill the parasites or any pathogen, right? So what will happen when they will enter the body of the host? Then there will be secretion of certain important enzymes that will try to kill this parasite. Okay, but these are very smart. They also have certain adaptations to protect themselves from such enzymes. Okay, so one of the important adaptation is having thick tegument. That means they have very thick body wall, and this thick body wall will protect them from the harmful effect of the enzymes secreted by the host body. Okay, so they have thick tegument to protect them from the enzymes. Let's write it down here. It will protect them from the enzymes, and these enzymes will be secreted by the body of the host. Okay, secreted by host body. So this is one of the important adaptation. Then second important adaptation is they might have hooks and suckers. What are hooks? Look at this diagram, this picture. Here you can see this is the body showing the parasitic adaptation of the platyhelminths. Here you can see these are the hooks. These pink colors small structures are known as hooks. And what is the role of these hooks? These help in the attachment of their body with the body of the host. Okay, so they are tightly fixed by the body. So even if there is something that pushes them, they will not be easily separated from the body. Okay. Then the next important adaptation is having suckers. Suckers you can see on the side. Here you can see light pink color. These are, I am shading these. So these shaded parts are suckers. So on the sides there are suckers. Okay, these are the suckers. What is the role of these suckers? These help in sucking the nutrients from the body of the host. Okay, so these were the parasitic adaptation, having thick tegument or thick body wall to protect them from the harmful effects of the enzymes secreted by the host body, then having hooks that will attach them from the host body with the host body, and third, suckers that will suck the nutrients out of the host body. Okay, so they will derive nutrition from the host body. Now we come to the general characteristics. We have, now you can easily analyze these characteristics. Okay, you can even answer yourself. What is the habit and habitat? So in the earlier cases, we saw that they were aquatic. Okay, coelentrates and ctenophores were aquatic. But here the platyhelminths is more advanced, so it will also be able to move to the land. So it can be aquatic or it can be terrestrial, both. Okay, and this can also be free living as well as parasitic. Okay, so it can easily, it can survive on its own, or it can survive with the help of the body of the host. Okay, then level of organization. If you remember when we were discussing the level of organization, there we discussed that Platyhelminths is the only phylum that has organ level of organization. Before this, coelentrates and ctenophores had tissue level of organization. And after this, all will be having organ system level of organization. But Platyhelminths has organ level of organization. Okay, although sometimes it is also written that they have organ system level of organization, but here you can remember organ level. Okay, if organ level is not given in option, then you can mark the organ system. Body plan, blind sac. Blind sac body plan means they have only one opening that will act as the mouth and the anus. Okay. Then germ layer, we know that platyhelminths onwards, all the phylums have three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So they are triploblastic. They have ectoderm, they have endoderm, and they have mesoderm as well. But what is important to note that despite having a mesoderm, their mesoderm does not split to form the body cavity or coelom. Okay, so although they have the mesoderm, still coelom is absent. So this is important to remember. So they are acoelomate. Got it? But after platyhelminths, all the animals or all the phylums will be coelomate. They will be having the coelom. Okay. Symmetry is bilateral symmetry. So platyhelminths onwards, all will be having bilateral symmetry. Only the larval echinoderm will be radially symmetrical. Yes, it will be sorry. The adult echinoderm will be your radially symmetrical. The larval form will be bilaterally symmetrical. So that is often very confusing. Okay. So you have to remember, after platyhelminths or from platyhelminths onwards, all are bilaterally symmetrical, and there is one exception, and that is the adult echinoderm, that is radially symmetrical. Okay. And segmentation and notochord will be absent. Now let's come to the physiology. So in physiology, first we'll discuss the digestion. What will be the digestion? There will be incomplete digestive system. Why? Because they have blind sac body plan. So whenever there will be blind sac body plan, there will be incomplete digestion. Okay, blind sac body plan. If there is only one opening, it means there will be incomplete digestion. If there will be two openings, one mouth and one anus, then only complete digestion will take place. And then in this case, only extracellular digestion takes place. That means digestion will be taking place outside the cells. Okay. What about reproduction? Sexual reproduction will take place, and these are bisexual. That means in the same body, male and female both are found. Okay. Male and female, both the sexes are found in the same body. Same body. Then fertilization is internal, inside the body, and development is indirect. That means through the larval stages. Through the larval stages. So this was all about the platyhelminths. Now let's have a look at the examples. So three examples are given in NCERT. The same examples I have taken here, but the pictures are different. Okay. Because these pictures are more explanatory. I think that these are more clear. Therefore, I have used this picture. So this first one is planaria. Okay, this is a free living platyhelminths, and it has high regeneration capability. That means even if you cut it into different parts, each part will be able to grow into an individual. Okay, so this characteristic or this quality is known as regeneration. Now next example is tinea. Tinea is also known as tapeworm. Okay, it is also known as tapeworm because it looks like tape. So here you can see the picture; it is looking like a tape. Then fasciola. Third example is fasciola, that is also known as liver fluke. So this is the picture of the fasciola. So these are the examples of platyhelminths. Now let's move to the next phylum, that is Aschelminthes. Now here onwards, all the characteristics will be same. Mostly the characteristics will be same because now all the animals or all the phylums are very advanced ones. Okay. So the difference between the platyhelminths and aschelminthes is that in case of platyhelminths, their body was very flat. Okay. The body was dorsoventrally flat, but they have a circular body. So this is one difference. They are also worms, but their body is circular. They have a circular body. So circular body in cross section. Then they may be terrestrial or aquatic because now the animals have become advanced, so they are able to move on the land. Okay. Then they can be free living or parasitic, again same as the platyhelminths. They have well developed muscular pharynx that is associated with the digestive system. Okay. Pharynx is associated with the digestive system. So this is important characteristic of Aschelminthes. They have well-developed muscular pharynx. Okay, just remember this. Then in Platyhelminths, we saw that the males and females were present in the same body, but here the males and females will be present in different bodies. Okay, so male and female will have different bodies, and important thing to note is that the females are often longer than the males. Okay, in humans we generally see that most of the times males are longer. Okay, males have more height than the female, but here the females are longer than the males. So this is something you should remember. Now let's start with the general characteristic. I have not written it. You can think, okay, and you try to answer it before me, okay, so that you can check whether you have understood or not. So habit and habitat we have already checked. They are aquatic as well as terrestrial. Okay, aquatic as well as terrestrial, both. What about the level of organization? You tell me. Although we are not live, so I cannot hear you, but you try to answer yourself. Okay. Level of organization. What? Cellular level? No. Cellular level is present only in the Porifera. Tissue level? No. It is in Coelenterata and Ctenophores. After Ctenophore, all have the Platyhelminthes had organ level of organization, and Aschelminthes onward will be organ system level of organization. Now, after this, all the animals that we will discuss will have the organ system level of organization. So, level of organization is organ system level. Then, what about the body plan? Again, these are more advanced. So, Aschelminthes onwards, what is the body plan? Tube within tube body plan. So, now we have tube within tube. And after this, all the phylums will be having tube within tube body plan. That means the digestive system will be complete with two openings, one mouth and the other anus. Okay. What about the germ layer? Three germ layers have already started from the platyhelminths, the ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So these are again triploblastic, and also all the animals after this will also be triploblastic. Okay. I hope you are able to understand this. Now, before this, we saw that in platyhelminths, despite having mesoderm, the mesoderm did not split and coelom was not formed. But as helminths onwards, coelom will be formed. So, all of the phylums after Aschelminthes will be coelomate only. So, these are coelomates. That means they have coelom that is formed by the splitting of the mesoderm. Symmetry, no, symmetry is, sorry, I got it confused with the segmentation. Segmentation is absent, notochord is absent, but symmetry is present, and it is bilateral symmetry. Because we have already discussed that the platyhelminths onwards, all the organisms or all the animals have bilateral symmetry. Only the adult echinoderm has radial symmetry. So I got confused between symmetry and segmentation. Now let's come to the physiology. Digestion is complete definitely because they have tube within tube body plan. Therefore, tube within tube, tube within tube body plan. Therefore, they have two openings. Two openings will be there. One opening will be the mouth and the other opening will be anus. Therefore, the digestion will be complete. Then what about excretion? So here you have to remember, this is important. In case of Aschelminthes, there is an excretory tube that eliminates the nitrogen waste through the excretory pore. So there will be excretory tube that will have an excretory pore, and through this excretory pore, nitrogen waste will be eliminated, okay, or excreted. Reproduction. So these are unisexual, right? The platyhelminths were bisexual because in the same body, male and female sexes were present. But here, male and female sexes are present in the separate bodies. Therefore, these are unisexual. One body will have only one sex, okay? Then fertilization is internal, and the development can be direct and indirect both. Okay, that means it can even take place through the larval stages, or it can be direct into an adult. Okay. Now we come to the examples. So the first example is Ascaris. Sorry. Ascaris. And Ascaris, here you can see that the males and females are present in separate bodies, and in Ascaris only you can see that the female body is longer than the male body. Okay. So let's see. These are commonly known as roundworms, or in general, Aschelminthes are also known as roundworms, but the most common of them are Ascaris. So these are the common roundworms. Okay. Then posterior tail. They have a posterior tail. You can see this is the male one. The shorter one is male and the longer one is female. And just notice the posterior tail in both of them. Can you see the difference? In case of male, the posterior tail is slightly curved. Okay. So in case of male, the posterior tail is slightly curved. Whereas in case of female, the posterior tail is straight. So this is another difference. First difference between male and female is that the male is shorter, female is longer. And the second is that the posterior tail in male is curved and the posterior tail in female is straight. Okay. Other examples are Buceraria, that are known as filarial worms, and Ankylostoma, known as hookworms. Okay. So again, I would say that do not forget the examples. Just try to remember all the examples, and especially the ones which are mentioned in the NCERT. Now we will move to the next phylum, that is the Annelida. Okay. Now, before we start with the next phylum, that is Annelida, let me tell you one thing, that I have made a mistake in Aschelminthes. I don't know how many of you noticed that, but those who have noticed that I made a mistake have understood this chapter well. Okay. So let's see what was the mistake. Here you can see when I was writing the general characteristics of the Aschelminthes in part of coelom, in the fifth point, coelom, we know that Porifera to platyhelminths, no coelom is present, right? So these are acoelomate. Then we saw that there is one phylum which has a coelom, but that coelom is not a true coelom but false coelom. Okay, so there we had discussed that the Aschelminthes, that means the round worms, have false coelom. So this is pseudocoelomate. Okay, pseudocoelomate because it has a false coelom. And after Aschelminthes, all the phylums are eucoelomate because they have true coelom. Okay, so this you have to keep in mind. Here in coelom, I have simply written coelomate. So yes, this is coelomate. That means it has coelom, but it does not have a true coelom. So it will be exactly pseudocoelomate. Okay, so let's write it pseudocoelomate here. Pseudocoelomate. So if you have written coelomate, then correct it and write pseudocoelomate. And those who could point out that mistake, then you have understood this chapter well, right? Now let's move further. We have to start with the phylum Annelida. So before starting the phylum, we always try to analyze the name of the phylum, okay? Because many times the information is given in the name only. So here, let's analyze this name Annelida. So where did this name come from? So it has come from the word annules. Annules. And what is the meaning of annules? It means rings. What is the role of rings here? Here I have mentioned the diagram of Nereis, Hirudinaria and earthworm, that is Ferretima. So in all of these you can see there is one common thing, that their body has a ring-like structure on them. Can you see ring-like structure? In Nereis also it is clearly visible, in earthworm also. If you want I can just zoom, have a look. Okay, can you see this ring-like structure all over the body? So yes, they have ring-like structures on their body surface. Therefore, these are known as Annelida because they have annules, that means rings. Okay, so I have understood. I hope that you understood this. Now, let's come to the general characteristics. As usual, we will be writing the general characteristics. First, you will try to answer yourself. What will be the habit and habitat of the earthworms? It can be aquatic or terrestrial. Okay, it can be aquatic or terrestrial. And it can also be free living as well as parasitic. It can be free living or parasitic. What is the example of parasitic? Hirudinaria, that means the blood sucking leech, that is an example of parasitic Annelida. Okay, that is found in our body. Then what will be the level of organization? These are advanced animals, so it will be organ system level of organization. And after this also all will be having organ system level of organization. So level of organization is organ system level. What about the body plan? The most advanced one, that means the tube within tube body plan. So let's write it down here, tube within tube. Next point is germ layer. So definitely these are advanced. So they will have three germ layers. That means ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. So they will be triploblastic. Okay, they are triploblastic. What about coelom? So in Aschelminthes, it was pseudocoelom, but after Aschelminthes, all will be having true coelom. That means eucoelom. So these are eucoelomates. Okay, these are eucoelomates. And after this also, all the animals will be eucoelomates because they have true coelom. What about the symmetry? So the advanced animals are bilaterally symmetrical. So this is also bilaterally symmetrical. So there is bilateral symmetry. Okay. And the exception you have to remember, the only advanced animal that is radially symmetrical is adult echinoderms. Okay. What about segmentation? Here segmentation is present. Have you seen the body of the, I've shown you the pictures, right? There you saw that there were rings all over the body which were dividing the body into various segments. So there is metameric segmentation here. Okay, metameric segmentation. Other than this, Arthropoda also has metameric segmentation. Then what about notochord? Definitely absent because notochord is the characteristic feature of chordates, not non-chordates. Now let's come to the physiology. So digestion, what about digestion? We have seen that they have tube within tube body plan. That means digestion will be complete because they have two different openings, separate openings that will be acting as mouth and anus. So complete digestive system is present. What about respiration? So respiration takes place through the body surface. And in earthworms, you must have heard that they have moist cuticles, that help in respiration. Okay. Then what about circulation? So they have a closed circulatory system. What type of circulatory system? Closed circulatory system. That means blood flows within the blood vessels. Okay. Then excretion. So excretion takes place through nephridia. Okay. The organ, excretory organ is nephridia, and it helps in excretion as well as osmoregulation. So this is excretory organ as well as osmoregulatory organ. What about locomotion? So it is helped by parapodia. Okay, parapodia helps in locomotion, which are lateral appendages. Okay, what are parapodia? These are lateral appendages on the body of the annelida, and they have muscles also which help in locomotion. These can be circulatory muscles. Circulatory muscles. I don't know if it is visible. Let me scroll it down. So other than the lateral appendages, they also have circulatory and longitudinal muscles. Longitudinal muscles which help in locomotion. Okay. Then let's come to the reproduction. So definitely sexual reproduction takes place. They can be unisexual and they can be bisexual as well. I have shown you three examples, right? Out of those three, two were bisexual. Which were bisexual? The earthworm is bisexual. Earthworm. And the Hirudinaria, that means the blood sucking leech, that is also bisexual. Okay. Hirudinaria. And which one was unisexual? So Nereis was unisexual. Nereis is unisexual. Got it? Now nervous system. So I haven't mentioned nervous system in other phylums, but here I have mentioned because this is given in the NCERT. So they have double, ventral and solid nerve cord with paired ganglions. This line is given in your NCERT. Okay. Now here you can just note down one thing, that the nerve cord is very different in non-chordates and chordates. Okay, very different, just opposite. So here you can see this is non-chordate. Annelida is a non-chordate. Here there are double nerve cords. Two nerve cords are present, whereas in chordates there will be single nerve cord. Then here you can see that the nerve cord is ventral, whereas in case of chordates the nerve cord will be dorsal, not ventral. Okay, everything will be opposite. Here you can see that the nerve cord is solid, but in chordates, the nerve cord will be hollow. Okay, so in non-chordates, the nerve cord is double, ventral and solid, whereas in chordates, it will be single, dorsal and hollow. Okay, everything will be just opposite. And here paired ganglions are also present. So this was all about the Annelida. I have already shown you the examples. Now we come to the next phylum, that is Arthropoda. Again, let's first analyze the name of the phylum. What is the name? Arthropoda. What is meant by arthro? Arthro means jointed. Okay, jointed. And poda means legs. So this phylum has jointed legs. All the members of this phylum will have jointed legs or jointed appendages. Okay, legs or appendages. So they will have jointed appendages. Therefore, the name Arthropoda. Another important thing about Arthropoda is that it is the largest phylum of the animal kingdom. Largest phylum of the animal kingdom. Out of all the phylums, that means there are the maximum number of members are present in this phylum. Okay, and they are found almost everywhere, on land, in water, on trees, in air also they can fly, so you will find them everywhere. So if we discuss the general characteristics, what will be the habit and habitat? They're actually found everywhere. So we can simply write aquatic as well as terrestrial. Aquatic and terrestrial both. Then what will be the level of organization? The most advanced one, that means the organ system level of organization. Organ system level of organization. What will be the body plan? The most advanced, that means tube within tube body plan. Okay. So tube within tube. Germ layer, 3 germ layers, so triploblastic. Okay, they are triploblastic. What about coelom? Definitely after Aschelminthes, all the phylums have true coelom. So these are also eucoelomate. These are eucoelomate. What about symmetry? Again, bilaterally symmetrical. All the advanced ones are bilaterally symmetrical, except the adult echinoderms, which is radially symmetrical. Okay. So I am repeating this thing again and again because I want you to remember this. Okay. What about segmentation? So here also segmentation is present. In Annelida, segmentation was present. Here also metameric segmentation is present. Metameric segmentation. Here you can see this diagram. What do you see in this diagram? You can see that the segments are present on the body. If I zoom this, now you can see this. So yes, here you can see that the body has metameric segmentation. I hope you can see the segments all over the body. Then you can see that the body can be divided into 3 parts. The first uppermost part is the head. Then the middle part is known as thorax and the lowermost part is known as abdomen. Now let's come to the physiology of arthropoda. Just remember 2 things, that their body is segmented. Okay, they have metameric segmentation, and one more thing is that they have chitin in their exoskeleton. Okay, so they have a chitinous exoskeleton. Chitinous exoskeleton. This is also important to remember about the arthropoda. Okay, they have a chitinous exoskeleton. Now let's come to the physiology. First one is digestion. So obviously they have a tube within tube body plan. That means the digestive system will be complete. So they have a complete digestive system. Then what about respiration? So they have multiple respiratory structures for respiration. Okay, it can be gills. They can have gills. They can have book gills. They can have book lungs, or they can have trachea as well. Okay, and trachea is most common in insects. Tracheal system is the most common respiratory system in insects. Okay, again important. Now circulation, they have an open circulatory system. Now I had told you a trick to remember which phylums have open circulatory system. So the trick was anthe. A-N-T-H-E, anthe. Okay, here A for arthropoda. A for arthropoda. So arthropoda have open circulatory system. Other than that, N for non-cephalopod mollusca. Then T for tunicata, H for hemichordata, and E for echinodermata. So all these have open circulatory system. Other than these, the phylums have closed circulatory system. Okay, so arthropoda is one of them. So open circulatory system. Then reproduction, it is usually unisexual. The animals are usually unisexual and they are oviparous. That means they lay eggs. Okay, oviparous means they lay eggs. They do not give birth to the young ones. Then fertilization is usually internal. So we are using the words that are mentioned in the NCERT. So fertilization is usually internal. Development can be both direct as well as indirect. Okay, so direct and indirect development. Then sensory structures, so eyes, antenna and statocyst. These are the sensory structures of the arthropoda. So statocyst is important, just remember this. Now, we know that there are various arthropods, okay. Now, some of them are beneficial to us, whereas some of them are harmful to us. Okay, so let's first see the examples of the economically important insects which are beneficial to us economically. So, first one is the apis, that is the common honeybee that we see. Okay, we obtain honey from them. So, apis means honeybee. Second one is the bombyx, that is the silkworm. We obtain silk, okay, from these. Then the third one is lacifer, that is commonly known as lac insect because we obtain lac from them. Okay, so these are the beneficial insects or beneficial arthropods. Now we come to the harmful ones. So the most common of the harmful insects is mosquito. Okay, it is found in everybody's home and it causes many diseases. Different types of diseases are caused by different types of mosquitoes. For example, female Anopheles mosquito. So which particular disease is caused by female Anopheles mosquito? It is none other than the malaria. So malaria is caused by female Anopheles mosquito. Then female Aedes mosquito, it causes the diseases such as dengue and chikungunya. Okay, and chikungunya. These are caused by female Aedes mosquito. Similarly, female Culex mosquito causes Japanese encephalitis. Okay, or we can say elephantiasis. Elephantiasis. It is caused by the Culex mosquito. Okay, so these are harmful insects. Now there can be other insects as well. You must have heard of gregarious pest. Okay, locust. Can you see in this figure locust? Locust is an example of gregarious pest. Why they are known as gregarious pest? Because they attack in groups. Okay, in the time of COVID, you would have heard of the locust attack. So they used to come in groups and attack the crops. Therefore, these are known as gregarious pests. And there can be other examples such as scorpion, prawn, butterfly, and limulus, that is known as king crab. Okay, and this is also known as living fossil. And why is it known as living fossil? Because it has no effect of evolution. Okay, so no evolution. It looks exactly how it used to look millions of years ago. Therefore, this is known as living fossil. Okay. Now, let's move to the next phylum, that is Mollusca. Okay, we are done with the Arthropoda. Everything is discussed already. Now we come to the Mollusca. So here, Mollusca. These are known as what? Soft-bodied animals. They have very soft bodies. Now here we have two pictures. Have a look. The first picture you can see, this is a snail. Now what do you see here? This is the head part. On the head there is an antenna. There are two antenna. Okay, or two tentacles. Sorry, these are two tentacles and these are eye stalks because eyes are present on these tentacles. Okay, this is the head part. Suppose this is the head part. On this head part, tentacles are present and on the tentacles, eyes are present. Okay, and you can see they have a foot. On the lower part you can see there is a foot which is purely muscular. There is no bone in the foot, okay, or no cartilage in the foot. This foot is totally muscular. It is completely made up of muscle. So they have a muscular foot. Okay, they have a muscular foot. Now, generally it is said that their body is divided into three parts. First part is your head. Then second part is the visceral hump, and the third part is the muscular foot. Okay, muscular foot. So these are three important parts of the body parts of the mollusk. Okay, now what is visceral hump? So visceral hump is basically a mass. It is also known as visceral mass. It is a mass that contains all the visceral organs. Okay, so all the visceral organs, that means organs related to digestion, circulation, excretion, all are present in this visceral hump only. Okay, so there is a head, and then there is a visceral hump like this, and then above the visceral hump shell can be found or it cannot be found. So some mollusks contain, they have the shell, and some mollusks do not have the shell. So in this first picture you can see that shell is present, but it is not necessary that all the mollusks will contain shell, but definitely the visceral hump will be present in all the mollusks that will contain all the visceral organs. Now let's have a look at this second picture. This is the most explanatory diagram. Here you can see the uppermost part, that is yellowish in color. This uppermost part, this yellowish color, it is the shell. Okay, this is the shell. Below this, there is a gray color lining. Can you see? This is the mantle. Gray color lining is the mantle. Okay, this one. Now, what is mantle? Mantle is basically soft, spongy covering of the visceral hump. Okay, so it covers the visceral hump. I have told you that the visceral organs will be located inside the visceral hump. Okay, and that visceral hump will be covered by a soft, spongy tissue known as mantle. Okay, now here you can see the uppermost part is the shell, then below that mantle is present, which is covering the visceral hump, and below the mantle what is present? Visceral hump, definitely. So this orange or pinkish portion is the visceral hump, and inside this visceral hump all the organs are present. Can you see this? Heart is present. Okay, digestive gland is present, digestive tract is present, all are present inside the visceral hump. So this pink area inside which all the organs are present is the visceral hump. Now one more important thing here is to note the mantle cavity. Can you see the mantle cavity? Now, what is mantle cavity? It is the space between the mantle and the visceral hump. So, on the upper part of the body, you can see, let me zoom it. On the upper part of the body, you can see that there is no space between the mantle and the visceral hump. Okay. Can you identify the visceral hump and the mantle? The pink area which contains all the organs is the visceral hump, and that is covered by the mantle. That is a gray color line. Okay. So can you see any space between the mantle and the visceral hump? No, no space is present. But on the side, on the left hand side of this picture, if you see where gill is present, in this part, there is a space between the mantle and the visceral hump, this white color area. This white color area is the space between the mantle and the visceral hump, and that space or cavity is known as mantle cavity. And you can see that in this cavity, gill is present. Okay, gill is present, which helps in respiration. It is present in this mantle cavity. Got it? So here three things were important. First of all, the shell, then mantle, then visceral hump, and then we can see that there is a space on the left hand side between the mantle and the visceral hump, that is known as mantle cavity. Now another important thing to note down is on the right side, you can see there is a mouth here, and near mouth there is a structure called radula. Okay, so this is a rasping structure. It looks like this. It looks like this. It is a file-like rasping organ, and this is known as radula. It helps in breaking down the food particles into smaller pieces. Okay, so radula is important, mantle is important, mantle cavity is important, visceral hump is important. Okay, shell is not very important because it can be or cannot be present, but visceral hump will be definitely present, mantle will be present, mantle cavity will be present between the mantle and the visceral hump, and radula, that is a file-like organ, rasping organ, that will be present near the mouth. Okay, so this was the structure, and this is very important. Okay, if you understand the structure, then it will be very easy to remember. So let's proceed with the general characteristics again. We'll start with the general characteristics, that is habit and habitat. So they can be aquatic as well as terrestrial, aquatic and terrestrial both, right? Then level of organization, definitely the most advanced one. That means the organ system level of organization, organ system level. What about the body plan? The most advanced, that means tube within tube, tube within tube body plan. Next thing is germ layer. So definitely three germ layers are present. So these are triploblastic. All the characteristics will be the advanced ones. Okay. So triploblastic, What about coelom? Coelom will be present, that will be formed by the mesoderm. So these, and they contain true coelom. Okay. So these are eucoelomate. Eucoelomate. And if you have any doubt understanding this triploblastic eucoelomate tube within tube, then just go and revise the initial part of this chapter. Okay. The first half of this chapter. Then what about symmetry? Again, these are bilaterally symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical. Next thing is segmentation. They have no segmentation. Okay. Annelida had segmentation. Arthropoda had segmentation. Mollusca does not have segmentation. Notochord definitely absent because it will be present only in chordates. Now, what about the physiology? Let's discuss this. So, first one is digestion. Obviously, tube within tube body plan is there, so complete digestive system will be present, and radula is associated with the digestive system. We have seen in the diagram, it was present near the mouth, and it is a file-like rasping organ. Okay, it is a file-like, that means very sharp rasping organ that is used to break down the food particles into smaller pieces. Then respiration. So what is the organ that helps in respiration of mollusca? So it is feather-like gills. We had seen in the diagram, the gill was something like this. It was present in the mantle cavity. Okay. The space between the mantle and the visceral hump is mantle cavity, and in that mantle cavity a gill was present which helps in respiration as well as excretion. So in excretion also feather-like gills are helpful. Then circulation. So circulation can be both open and closed. Again, here it is important. I have told you how to remember which phylums have open circulatory system. So I had told you anthe. Anthe. Here A for Arthropoda and N for non-cephalopod mollusk. Okay, non-cephalopod mollusk. Not all the mollusca are having open circulatory system, only the non-cephalopod mollusk. That means there are some non-cephalopod mollusk and there are some cephalopod mollusk. Okay, so let's explain it here. Let me explain it here. So mollusca can be non-cephalopod, or they can be cephalopod. They can be cephalopod. What do we mean by cephalopod? Cephalo is related to head. Okay. So cephalo means head and pod means legs. So there are some mollusks in which the head and the leg is attached. If you see them, you will not find anything in between head and leg. For example, octopus. If you look at the octopus, it is the head, and from here only the legs will start, right? So can you see that the head and the legs of the octopus are attached? So this type of mollusk are known as cephalopod mollusk. They have attached head and leg. Okay. So these are cephalopod, and the mollusk which do not have the head and legs attached, these are known as non-cephalopod. So non-cephalopod have open circulatory system. Open circulatory system, whereas the cephalopods such as the octopus has closed circulatory system. So this you have to remember. You might get confused, right? So you have to specifically pay attention to those parts which are confusing, right? Now, what about the reproduction? So these are unisexual and oviparous. They lay eggs. Okay. Development, usually indirect development. That means through the larval stages. Okay. Now everything about the mollusk is done. Only examples we have to see. So various examples of mollusk are mentioned in the NCERT. So first one is Aphysia, that is known as sea hare. You have to remember the examples, all the examples. Dentalium, elephant tusk shell. It is the common name of dentalium. Then Pila, that is known as apple snail. Pink taida, known as pearl oyster. Octopus, that is known as devilfish. Loligo, that is known as squid. Sepia, that is known as cuttlefish. And Calopleura, okay, Calopleura, that is known as chiton. So you have to remember all the examples. Here we have the pictures of two of them. First one is the devilfish, that is the octopus, and the second one is the pila, that is apple snail. Okay, but I would recommend that you search all the examples on the internet and see their pictures. Okay, that will make this thing interesting to you. Now we come to the next phylum, that is the Echinodermata. Okay, again we will first analyze the name of the phylum. So echino means spiny. Dermata is related to skin. Okay, so skinned. So they have a spiny skin. Therefore, these are known as Echinodermata. Okay, so suppose this is the uppermost layer. Then below this, there is a first layer is I think known as cuticle. The second layer is known as epidermis, and below the dermis, the layer is known as dermis. Okay. Epidermis means something that is located above the dermis. So these are three layers of the body. On the dermis, the lowermost layer, there are some ossicles which are made up of calcium. Okay, so these are known as calcareous ossicles because these are made up of calcium. Okay, and spicules are also present like this, or you can say that spines are present. Okay, so this is why they are known as spiny skinned animals. And endoskeleton is made up of calcareous ossicles, as you have seen. The dermis has the calcareous ossicles on it. Then another important point is that mouth is located on the lower side, that is the ventral side, and the anus is located on the upper side, that is the dorsal side. This is important point for the echinodermata. Okay, mouth located on the lower side and anus located on the upper side. Generally, what happens? Generally, mouth is located on the upper side and anus on the lower side. But here the case is different, just the opposite. And then the most important characteristics, or you can say the distinctive feature of the echinodermata, is the water vascular system. Very important. Okay, and this water vascular system in echinodermata helps in locomotion, then capture and transport of food, and then respiration. In all these, this water vascular system is helpful. Okay, it is very important. So many times this question is asked that water vascular system is the characteristic feature of which phylum? So it is Echinodermata. Okay. Now again we'll start with the general characteristics. I think you can easily answer these questions now. Habit and habitat. Now this time habit will be marine, only marine, or you can say exclusively marine. Exclusively marine. Because you will not find any echinodermata on land. Okay, they are found in marine environments only. Now, level of organization. Now, it will be very simple. Organ system, the highest level of organization. Body plan, definitely the tube within tube body plan. Okay, tube within tube. Then germ layer, triploblastic. Triploblastic. What about coelom? Coelom will be present, so these will have true coelom. So these are eucoelomates. Okay, eucoelomates. Then what about symmetry? Again, bilateral symmetry or radial symmetry. Can you remember every time in each phylum I have repeated this thing that the adult echinoderms have radial symmetry. Okay, radial symmetry. So all the advanced animals have bilateral symmetry except adult echinoderms. These have radial symmetry, whereas the larva form is bilaterally symmetrical. Bilateral symmetry. Okay. So in symmetry, you have to remember that both radial and bilateral are possible. Okay. Both radial and bilateral. Adult will have radial symmetry. Larval form will be having bilateral symmetry. Segmentation, no segmentation is not present. Notochord is also absent. Now we'll come to the physiology. So the first one is digestion. Definitely tube within tube body plan is present. That means the complete digestive system will be present. And again, we have seen that mouth is located on the lower side. That means the ventral side. lower side or ventral side, whereas the anus is located on the upper side or the dorsal side. Okay, this also you have to remember. Respiration takes place with the help of water vascular system. Excretion also takes place through water vascular system. Locomotion also takes place through the water vascular system with the help of water vascular system. Circulation, which type of circulation? Open circulatory system. Again, you have to remember anthe. A for Arthropoda, N for non-cephalopod mollusca, T for tunicata, H for Hemichordata, and E for Echinodermata. So E for Echinodermata. So all these have open circulatory system. Therefore, open circulatory system. Got it? Now, reproduction. Obviously, sexual reproduction will take place, and these are unisexual. Fertilization is external and development is indirect. So this was all about the Echinodermata. Let's have a look at the examples. Again, I have written all the examples which are mentioned in NCERT. Okay, so Asterias, that means starfish. Echinus, that means sea urchin. Antedon, that is sea lily. Ophiura, that is brittle star. And Cucumeria, that is known as sea cucumber. Okay, so all these examples are important. You can see there are two pictures. One is starfish, that is Asterias, and the second one is the Ophiura, that is known as brittle star. Okay, first one is starfish, second one is Ophiura. So this was all about the Echinodermata. Now we'll move to the Hemichordata. So in hemichordates, we have to study very less. Okay, there are only very few things which need to be kept in mind. Okay, one of the thing is that their body can be divided into three parts. As you can see here, the first upper part, I don't know if this is visible to you. Let me zoom. Okay, so this is the body of a hemichordate. Okay, this is Balanoglossus, a type of hemichordate. So here you can see that the body has three parts. The uppermost part is the proboscis. The middle part is the collar part or collar region, and the lowermost part is known as trunk. Okay, so the body can be divided into three parts: proboscis, collar, and trunk. Now, in the collar region, you can see there is a rod-like structure in between, right? So earlier it was misunderstood to be a notochord, right? So earlier we thought that this is notochord, therefore it was kept under the chordates. But later on, it was discovered to be stomochord, not notochord, which is very different from the notochord. Okay, therefore, after that, it was excluded from the, it was removed from the chordates, and then it was placed under the non-chordates. Okay, so this is the last non-chordates that we are going to discuss. Okay, now let's come to the general characteristics. I think you can easily answer yourself. Okay, I don't need to answer this, but still I have to write, so I'm writing. But you try to answer yourself first. What will be the habit and habitat? So here also, like the previous one, like the Echinodermata, these are also exclusively marine. Okay, so this you have to remember. These are also exclusively marine. Then level of organization, organ system level of organization, organ system. Then what will be the body plan? Tube within tube body plan. Tube within tube. What will be the number of germ layers? 3 germ layers. So they will be triploblastic. Triploblastic. Then coelom is definitely present. So they are eucoelomate. That means they have true coelom. What about symmetry? Again, bilaterally symmetrical. Bilaterally, okay. There's a spelling mistake. Bilaterally symmetrical. Then segmentation, absent. Segmentation is not present here. Notochord is definitely absent. Earlier we thought that they had notochord, but now we realize that it was not a notochord, it was stomochord, which is different than the notochord. So this was all about the general characteristics. Now we'll come to the physiology, and that will be all about the hemichordates. Okay. So physiology, what about digestion? Obviously complete digestive system is present, because they have tube within tube body plan. Respiration takes place with the help of gills. Okay, they have gills for respiration. Excretion, so proboscis gland. You have seen the diagram. The above, the uppermost part was proboscis. So their proboscis gland is present, which helps in excretion. Then circulation, open circulatory system is present. You remember anthe? Anthe. A for arthropoda, then N for non-cephalopod mollusca, T for tunicata, H for hemichordata, and E for echinodermata. So H for hemichordata, so they also have open circulatory system. What about reproduction? So sexual reproduction takes place and unisexual, they are unisexual. Okay. Then fertilization, external fertilization, that means outside the body, and development is indirect, that means development will take place through the larval stages. Through larval stages. So that's all about the hemichordates. Okay. And have a look at this diagram. This is saccoglossus. Okay, in NCERT, two examples are given for hemichordates. First is melanoglossus and the second one is saccoglossus. So this diagram is that of saccoglossus. Okay. So we are done with the non-chordates and now we are going to start with the chordata. Okay. I don't think we need to revise the general characteristics again because all the characteristics will be that of advanced ones. Okay. For example, level of organization will be the organ system level of organization. Then germless, there will be three germless, so they will be triploblastic. What about symmetry? They will be bilaterally symmetrical. So all the advanced features will be or advanced characteristics will be available here. Okay, will be seen. So we will be studying the important characteristics of the chordates. First one is the presence of notochord that we have been discussing throughout the non-chordates. Okay, every time we have discussed this that notochord is present only in the chordates. Okay, so it can be present at any stage of evolution, at any stage of life or at any stage of evolution. So do we have a notochord? No, we do not have notochord. In our body, we have vertebral column. Okay, so notochord has been replaced by the vertebral column, but we did have a notochord at the early embryonic development of our life. Okay. So this is important. Then presence of nerve cords is also important. But you have to keep in mind that notochord is present only in the chordates. It is absent in the non-chordates. But nerve cords are present in non-chordates as well as chordates, although they are of different types. So there is a large difference between the nerve cords of the non-chordates and the chordates. In the chordates, the nerve cord is single. We have a single nerve cord, then it is dorsal, that means at the back side, and it is hollow. Okay, so the nerve cord is hollow. These are the characteristics of the nerve cord in the chordates. Whereas in case of non-chordates, they had double nerve cords, they had ventral nerve cord, and they had solid nerve cord. Okay, so all the characteristics were different in case of the non-chordates. Now the next important characteristics, paired pharyngeal gill slits at again any stage of the life. So all these things can be present at any stage of life or at any stage of evolution. Then presence of post-anal tail and there is a ventral heart. So in chordates, the heart is ventral, that means on the front portion, whereas in case of non-chordates, the heart was present at the back. At the back, that means the heart was dorsal in case of the non-chordates. Okay. Now have a look at this diagram. Here you can see the body plan of chordata. You can see nerve cord and notochord both are present here and both are present on the dorsal side. So this is the dorsal side. Okay. And one more thing you can observe that the notochord is present below the nerve cord. Okay. So we can say that both nerve cord as well as notochord are present on the dorsal side, but nerve cord is more dorsal than the notochord. Okay. You can clearly see notochord is present below the nerve cord. Then you can also see the gill slits here and the post-anal tail. So this figure is also given in your NCERT book. So there also you can see. Okay. Now we will come to the classification of the chordates, because chordates, there are large number of chordates and different types of chordates. So it is very easy, very important to simplify this study. Okay, we cannot study them all together. Okay, so we will be broadly classifying the chordates into two groups. The first group is craniata and acraniata, and the second one is craniata. Okay, in all the books also, most of the books, this will be the classification. Okay, so we always study by classifying the chordates into two groups. First group is acraniata and the second group is craniata. Now, what do we mean by acraniata and craniata? So, this word is derived from the cranium, from the word cranium. And what is cranium? Cranium is the outer covering which encloses our brain. Okay, we also have cranium, and inside the cranium brain is found, brain is available or located. So it is also known as a brain box. Okay, it is also known as brain box. So it is a kind of box that encloses the brain. So in case of acraniata, from the word itself we can understand that the cranium is absent. A means absent, so cranium is absent here, or the brain box is absent in the first group. And in the second group, which are known as craniata, the brain box or the cranium is present. Okay, so in this case, cranium or the brain box is present. And therefore, these are also known as euchordates. That means true chordates. Okay, U means true. So because of the presence of the cranium or the brain box, they are known as true chordates. Now, this side, on the left hand side, you can see that the acraniata are also known as protochordates. That means primitive type of chordates. So those chordates which do not have a cranium or brain box are known to be the primitive type of the chordates, whereas those who have the cranium are more advanced type of or true chordates. Okay, so this is the main difference. Now, first we will discuss the protochordates, then we will discuss the euchordates. So in protochordates, we just have to discuss very less. First of all, you have to remember that there are two types of protochordates. First one is urochordates or the tunicate, and the second one is cephalochordate. Okay, so protochordates or the acraniata are further divided into two groups. First group is urochordate, that is also known as tunicates, and the second group is cephalochordate. Okay, now what is the difference between the urochordate and the cephalochordate? So the answer is hidden in its name itself. I've always told that the answer you can find out in the name only. Okay, the name indicates the main characteristic of that organism. For example, if we talk about the urochordate, so uro means what? Uro means tail, and chordate is related to the word notochord. Okay, so uro means tail and chordate is related to notochord. So from this name, you can say that in this case, the notochord is present only in the tail. Okay, not in all the parts of the body, and even in whose tail? Only in the larval tail. Okay, so they are found only in the larva, not in the adult body, and even in larva it is found only in the tail. Okay, so we can say that the notochord is only present in the tail of the larva. Okay, it is not present in adult, and it is not present in any other part of the body other than the tail. Okay, so this is important characteristic. Now, why is it also known as tunicate? Because of the presence of tunicin. Okay, so their body is covered by a sheet that is made up of tunicin. Okay, so because of the presence of this tunicin, they are also known as tunicates. Okay, so this was all about the urochordate. This is the main characteristic of urochordate, that they have the notochord only in the tail of the larva. That's it. And since their body is covered by tunicin, therefore these are also known as tunicata. And the examples are given: Ascidia, Sulpa, and Doliolum. These are the examples of the protochordates. So I have always told you that you cannot miss to memorize the examples, because examples are the most important to remember. Then second group of the acraniata is the cephalochordate. Again, from the name only you can say that here cephalo means head. What is the meaning of cephalo? It means head, and chordate is related to the notochord. So in this case the notochord will be present from head to tail. Okay, in urochordate it was present only in the tail, but here it will be present from head to tail. So notochord extends from head to tail. And what are the examples? Branchiostoma, that are also known as amphioxus or lancelet. So examples you have to remember, because examples can be quite confusing. I hope you have understood about the acraniata. What did we discuss? We discussed that the chordates are broadly classified into two groups: acraniata, that are also known as protochordate because they are considered to be primitive, And second group is Craniata. Those have cranium and they are said to be the advanced chordates or the true chordates. Okay, so they are also known as euchordates. Now, in protochordates, we saw that there are two groups, urochordates and cephalochordates. Urochordates were those which had notochord only in the tail of the larva. Okay, only in the tail. And whereas cephalochordates have notochord from head to tail. Okay, so only on the depending on the position of the notochord, these are classified into urochordate and cephalochordate. Okay, and now we come to the craniata, the second group. That means the most advanced chordates or the true chordates. So they have only one side subphylum. The protochordate had two subphylum, urochordate and cephalochordate, and this has only one subphylum, that is vertebrate. Okay, now this vertebrate will further be classified into different subclass, this superclasses or classes. So we will see the classification of vertebrates further, but here just remember one thing. You can see that vertebrate is one of the subphylum under chordates, right? So we can say that all the vertebrates will be chordates. Okay, these are one of the subphylums under chordates. So definitely all the vertebrates come under the chordates. But not all chordates are vertebrates, because there are some chordates such as urochordate or cephalochordate. These are not vertebrate. So remember one line that is mentioned in NCERT, that all vertebrates are chordates, but not all chordates are vertebrates. Okay, so all chordates are not vertebrates. Now we will discuss the classification of vertebrata. Okay. First, we will see some of the characteristics of the vertebrates, then we will see the classification. So, who are vertebrates? We all are vertebrates. And why we are known as vertebrates? Because in our body, the notochord has been replaced by a vertebral column. So, due to the presence of the vertebral column, we are known to be vertebrates. Okay. So, here the notochord is replaced by the vertebral column. Okay. Other characteristics of vertebrates are that respiration can take place through gills or lungs. Circulation takes place with the help of muscular heart, and the heart can be two chambered, three chambered or four chambered. Okay, so you will see in fish, in case of fish, the heart will be two chambered. Okay, the fish have two chambered heart. In case of amphibians and reptiles, amphibians or reptiles, the heart will be three chambered. Okay, it will be three chambered. Whereas in case of birds or aves and mammals, the heart will be four chambered. Okay, so we will discuss this. The heart will be four chambered. So in general, we can say that the vertebrates have two chambered, three chambered or four chambered hearts. Then excretion takes place through the kidneys. Okay, so what is the excretory organ? Kidney. What about the reproduction? So it is usually unisexual. It is not unicellular. It should be unisexual. Okay, unisexual. Okay, that means sexes are separate, and they have gonads. In females, they have ovary, and in males, they have testes. So these things will be present in the vertebrates. Now let's come to the classification of the vertebrates. So vertebrates are further classified into two groups. Earlier, what did we saw? We saw that the chordates were divided on the basis of the presence of cranium, right? So in one group, the cranium was absent, and the other group, the cranium was present. Okay. In the group where cranium was present, there was a subphylum called vertebrata. Now, vertebrata will further be divided on the basis of presence of jaws. Okay, so now they are divided on the basis of the presence or absence of jaws. So the two groups here are, first group is Agnatha and the second group is Gnathostoma. Okay, so Gnatha, G-N-A-T-H-A, Gnatha. This word is used here for naming these. So Gnatha means what? It means jaws. Okay, so the first group is known as Agnatha because it does not have jaws. Okay, so Agnatha lacks jaws, or we can say that the jaws are absent. Okay, Agnatha lacks jaws. They do not have jaws. Whereas the second group, that is Gnathostoma, possess jaws. It has jaws, or we can say that the jaws are present. Okay. And why is it known as gnathostoma? Stoma means mouth. Okay, gnatho means jaws and stoma means mouth. So gnathostoma means that the mouth is enclosed by the jaws. Okay. Now, here you can see that agnatha, that means the one which does not have jaw, is has only one class. Okay, there is only one class under this division, that is class cyclostome or cyclostomata. Okay, whereas the gnathostoma is divided into two super classes. First one is Pisces and the other one is Tetrapoda. So here you just have to remember things. Okay, I will be revising these things again and again so that you can remember them. First, we saw that the chordates were divided into two groups. First one was Acraniata, which does not have cranium, and the second group was Craniata, that has the cranium. Okay, Acraniata are also known as protochordates because these are considered to be primitive, whereas the Craniata are known as the euchordates because these are considered to be true chordates. Okay, then under Acraniata, we saw two subphylums, Urochordata, in which the notochord exists only in the tail of the larva, and the second one was Cephalochordate, in which the notochord persists from head to tail. Okay, now we came to the second type, that is the Craniata, okay, or the euchordates. In that we saw there was one subphylum that is known as the Vertebrata. Now we are classifying the vertebrates. So vertebrates are further divided into two groups: agnatha, that means those which do not have jaws, and gnathostoma, which have jaws. Okay. Under agnatha, there is only one class that is known as cyclostoma. Cyclo means circular. Okay. Cyclo means circular, stoma means mouth. So they have a circular mouth. Whereas gnathostoma is further divided into two super classes, and this is Pisces is one superclass and the other superclass is Tetrapoda. Okay, so there is one Pisces. So these are what? Super classes. Okay, these are super classes. Pisces is a superclass and Tetrapoda is also a superclass. Under these superclasses, there are different types of classes. Okay, so let's move further. First, we will discuss the Agnatha, which has the class Cyclostomata. Okay, so we will discuss the Cyclostomata first, then we will come to the Gnathostoma. So Agnatha has only one class that is known as Cyclostomata. What are the characteristics of Cyclostomata? First thing is that all are aquatic. They can be marine or they can be freshwater. Okay, both. They are found in marine water as well as fresh water. Then why they are known as cyclostomata? Cyclo means circular. Stomata means mouth. That means they have circular mouth. So they have circular and suctorial mouth. That means they help in sucking the nutrients. Okay. Suctorial mouth without jaws. Okay. Without jaws, because they belong to Agnatha, so definitely they will not have jaws. So they have circular suctorial mouth, and why they have suctorial mouth? So that it will help them to suck the nutrients from the host. So they will act as parasite. Okay, so this is again important characteristic of the cyclostomata. In fact, this is the most important one. They are mostly ectoparasite on the fish. Okay, they are found on the outer body of the fish and they are parasite of fish. That means they derive their nutrients from the body of the fish. Okay, and therefore they have the suctorial mouth. Now there is absence of paired appendages or scales. So in case of fish, see, these cyclostomata look like fish, but they are not fish. Okay, they are ectoparasites on fish. So in case of fish, you will see that the paired appendages are found. Okay, paired and unpaired fins are found. Fins. In case of fishes, the appendages are fins, right? And they also have scales. Whereas in cyclostomata, these things are absent. So there is absence of paired appendages and scales. Then they have 6 to 15 pair gill slits. Okay, so this is mentioned in your NCERT. So you have to remember how many gill slits? 6 to 15 pair of gill slits. Then cranium and vertebral column is cartilaginous. So cranium and vertebral column is cartilaginous. But we are discussing that, okay, these are vertebrates. Vertebrates have cranium or not? Can you say, can you recapitulate what did we study? Do they come under Acraniata or Craniata? So do not get confused. They come under the Craniata. Okay. Under Acraniata, there were Urochordates and Cephalochordates. Under the Craniata, there were vertebrates under which these cyclostomes come. Okay. So these are Craniata. So cranium is present and vertebral column is also present because these are vertebrates and both are cartilaginous. That means made up of cartilage. Okay. These are not bony. Then they do not have stomach. Okay, no stomach is present and they have a closed circulatory system. Now, another important characteristic of the cyclostomes, this is very important to note. Here you can see that they spend their life in marine water. Okay, so they spend their life in marine water. Then what happens when they have to lay eggs or they have to release sperms? Then they move to the fresh water. Okay, so they do not lay eggs in the marine water, although they spend their life in the marine water. Okay, they do not lay eggs or they do not release sperms. That means for the purpose of spawning, they move to the fresh water. Okay, and there the female will lay eggs. Female will lay eggs and the males will release the sperms, right? Where? In the fresh water. Then fertilization will take place. These will get fertilized. Fertilization will take place. What will happen? Zygote will be formed. Then it will develop to form the larva, right? And then larva will undergo metamorphosis to form the adult. Okay, larva will undergo metamorphosis to form the adult. And then this adult will again move back to the marine water. Okay, so this adult after metamorphosis will move to the marine water. Then again they will spend their life in the marine water, but when it comes to lay eggs or release sperms, they will move to the fresh water and this cycle will continue. Here are the examples of the jawless fishes. That means the cyclostomata. So first one is myxine, that is also known as hagfishes. So this first diagram is that of myxine. And the second one is petromyzone, that is also known as lamprey. Okay, so these are the pictures of myxine and petromyzone. Now let's move to the second category, that is gnathostome. So we have discussed about the agnatha, which was one of the category under vertebrata which does not have jaws. Now we will be discussing about the gnathostoma which has jaws. Okay, so gnathostoma means jaws are present. Jaws are present. Now, we also know that the gnathostoma is divided into two superclasses. Okay, gnathostoma is divided into two superclasses. First one is Pisces and the other one is Tetrapoda, right? Tetrapoda. Pisces is further classified into two classes. Okay, Pisces is a superclass which is further divided into two classes. First one is Osteichthyes, and the other one is Chondrichthyes. So that we will be discussing. Okay, Osteichthyes and Chondrichthyes. First, let's discuss the general characteristics of the gnathostoma, specifically the Pisces. Okay, so superclass Pisces. What are the characteristics? All are aquatic. They can be marine or they can be freshwater. Okay, they can live in both types of water. Means some will be found in marine water and some will be found in fresh water. Then scales will be present. Earlier we saw that cyclostomas did not have scales or paired appendages, but these true fish, that means Pisces, will have scales as well as the paired appendages. Okay, and what are the appendages in fish? These are none other than the fins. Okay, so they have scales, then they have paired as well as unpaired fins. So fins here act as the appendage. Okay, and these things were absent in the cyclostomes. Then they have two-chambered heart. This also we discussed that the fish have two-chambered heart. Amphibians and reptiles will have three-chambered heart, and the aves and mammals will have four-chambered hearts, with few exceptions definitely. Then How respiration will take place? It takes place with the help of gills. We all know that gills are present in fish for respiration. Then they are poikilotherm. And what is meant by poikilotherm? Poikilotherm means cold-blooded. Okay. So they are cold-blooded. And what do we mean by cold-blooded? It means that they do not have a constant body temperature. Okay. So the body temperature is not constant, or we can say the body temperature is variable. So it varies according to the environment or according to the requirement of the situation. Okay. So sometimes the body temperature can drop, sometimes it can rise depending on the situation. Okay. Whereas we all human beings are warm blooded. That means in our body the temperature remains constant. And this is not the case in case of Pisces. Okay. And these are unisexual. That means the sexes are separate. Okay. Males and females are separate. Now, Pisces is a super class, right? See, Pisces is a super class. And this super class will be further divided into two classes. And these two classes are Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. So these differences you have to keep in mind between the Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes, otherwise you will get confused. Okay. So Chondrichthyes means, chondro means what? It is related to cartilage. So it means that they have cartilaginous skeleton. Okay, their skeleton is made up of cartilage, whereas Osteichthyes means they have a bony skeleton. Okay, so let's see the differences. First difference is that the Chondrichthyes are they live in marine water. Okay, they are marine, whereas the Osteichthyes can live in marine as well as fresh water. This is one difference. You have to remember all the differences because all these are mentioned in NCERT. Okay. Then the most important point that is clear from the name itself, they have a cartilaginous exoskeleton. Chondrichthyes, the word chondro is related to cartilage. So they have a cartilaginous exoskeleton, whereas the Osteichthyes are having the bony exoskeleton. Okay. So the exoskeleton is very different in these two classes. Then in Chondrichthyes, mouth is located ventrally, whereas in the Osteichthyes, mouth is located terminally. Then what about gills? This is also important. You can star mark. Gills are present without the operculum in Chondrichthyes. And what is meant by operculum? It is the gill cover. Okay, it is gill cover. So it covers the gill. Okay, so gill covers are not present in the Chondrichthyes, but they are present in the Osteichthyes. Okay, so you can see that the Osteichthyes seem to be more advanced than the Chondrichthyes. Okay, they seem to be. So gills are without operculum in Chondrichthyes, whereas the operculum is present in the Osteichthyes. Then next point is air bladder is absent in the Chondrichthyes, whereas these are present in the Osteichthyes. Okay, air bladder. What is air bladder used for? It provides buoyancy. Okay, air bladder provides buoyancy. Buoyancy is that characteristic which helps it to float on water. Okay, so buoyancy helps in floating. Okay, buoyancy helps in floating. So what will happen? In case of Chondrichthyes, this air bladder is absent. That means there will be no buoyancy. So how will they float in water? They have to constantly swim. So they will keep swimming. Otherwise, they will sink in water. Okay, because the air bladder is not present. If air bladder would be present, then they would not have to swim repeatedly. But here in case of Osteichthyes, air bladder is present. So they can remain carefree. Even if they do not swim, they will not sink in water because of the presence of the air bladder. So it will keep providing buoyancy to them. Okay, so this you have to understand. Air bladder is absent in Chondrichthyes, air bladder is present in the Osteichthyes. What else is absent in Chondrichthyes? So operculum or the gill cover is also absent in Chondrichthyes and it is present in the Osteichthyes. So most of the things are present in the Osteichthyes and absent in the Chondrichthyes. Next point, placoid scales. So the Chondrichthyes have placoid scales, whereas the Osteichthyes have cycloid or ctenoid scales. Scales you understand, but what are placoid or cycloid scales? So here we do not have to go into detail of the types of scales. Just remember that these names are given on the basis of their appearance, how they appear, how they look. Okay, so you can just Google these terms, placoid scales and cycloid scale, and there you will see the pictures, and then you can differentiate between the appearance of the two types of scales. So in case of Chondrichthyes, placoid scales are found, and in case of Osteichthyes, cycloid or ctenoid scales are found. Okay. In case of Chondrichthyes, internal fertilization takes place, whereas in the Osteichthyes, external fertilization, that means outside the body, takes place. Okay. Then the Chondrichthyes are usually viviparous, that means they give birth to the young ones directly. Okay. They give birth to the young ones, whereas the Osteichthyes are oviparous. So here you can remember O for Osteichthyes, O for oviparous. You should not get confused. That means they lay eggs. They will lay eggs. In case of Chondrichthyes, notochord is persistent. Okay, notochord is still persistent. Whereas in case of the Osteichthyes, it is replaced by the vertebral column. Okay, so here also we can see that the feature of the Osteichthyes is more advanced as compared to the Chondrichthyes. Okay, so in case of Osteichthyes, the notochord is replaced by the vertebral column, same as we human beings. We also have vertebral column instead of the notochord. Now there are two characteristics of Chondrichthyes that we have to keep in mind. First of all, that Chondrichthyes are predaceous in nature. Okay, they act as predator. Okay, and therefore they have electrical organs or poison sting that helps in the process of predation. Okay. Then they have claspers which are associated with the pelvic fin in males. So it is present in males. What are claspers? So claspers are the copulatory organ. Okay, copulatory organ. That means they help in copulation. Okay, therefore these are associated with the pelvic fin in males only. Okay, not females. So this was the difference between the Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. Okay. Now, like you can see the examples. First, you can see the example of the Chondrichthyes. We have seen that the Chondrichthyes are predaceous in nature, therefore they have such adaptations. Okay, so first one is Carcharodon, that is great white shark. You just have a look at the picture. We don't have to discuss in detail. Carcharodon, that is great white shark. Then second one is Trigon, that is stingray, and the third one is Polyodon, that is dogfish. Okay. Then we have torpedo, that is electric ray, and pristis, that is sawfish. So you have to remember the scientific name as well as the common name, because all these are mentioned in the NCERT. So each of the name and each of the word of NCERT is important. Okay. So just have a look. So all these are Chondrichthyes. Now we will see the examples of Osteichthyes. Here you can see Osteichthyes are very large in numbers. Okay, they can live in marine. We have seen that the Chondrichthyes only live in marine water, whereas the Osteichthyes can live in marine water as well as fresh water. So there are some Osteichthyes which are marine and some Osteichthyes which are fresh water. So we will see the examples of both types. First one, you can see these are the Osteichthyes which are found in marine water. Examples are Exocetus and Hippocampus. Okay, so these are marine Osteichthyes. And then let's see the freshwater Osteichthyes. So freshwater Osteichthyes basically contains all the fish that we consume. Okay, so those who consume the fish, they would know these names very well. They would be aware of these names. Rohu, that is lebu. Then Clarius, that is magur. And then Katla. Katla fish, Rohu fish, you would have heard of. So all these are freshwater Osteichthyes. Okay. Now there are some Osteichthyes which are kept in aquarium in our homes, and the examples of such Osteichthyes are beta, that is fighting fish, and pterophyllum, that is angelfish. So you will find these fish or these Osteichthyes specifically in your aquarium. Okay, so we have seen all the examples of the superclass spices. Okay, both classes, Chondrichthyes as well as Osteichthyes. Now we come to the second superclass of the vertebrata, that is Tetrapoda. Again, let's focus on the name first. Tetrapoda. Tetra means what? Tetra means four, and poda means legs or appendages. So all these will have 4 legs or 4 appendages. Okay. Now this superclass Tetrapoda has been further classified into 4 classes. First one is amphibians, amphibian. Then second one is reptile or reptilia. Third one is aves or birds. And the fourth one is mammals. So these are the 4 classes under the superclass Tetrapoda that we have to discuss now. So let's start with the first class, that is amphibia. So these are very simple. Okay, we often see these animals in our daily lives. Okay, amphibia, the best example is frog. You would have seen frogs in rainy seasons. Okay, so what are the characteristics of amphibia? Mostly 2 pairs of limbs are present because these are tetrapoda, so definitely 4 limbs will be present. So 2 pairs of limbs present. Then in the amphibia, the body is divisible into 2 parts, head and trunk. Okay, so 2 parts, head and trunk. So if the question is asked in which animals or in which class the body is divisible into head and trunk, it will be amphibia. Then tail may be present or it may be absent. Okay, so in some the tail may be present. They have moist skin and they have no scales. Okay, scales are absent, but they have moist skin, and this moist skin helps in respiration. Okay, so when they are near water, then they often respire with the help of the moist skin. Okay. Then eyelids are present. Eyelids are present. Before this, did we saw in any class that eyelids were present? No. Here eyelids are present in tetrapoda. Specifically amphibia we are discussing. Then tympanum represents the ear. Okay, so they do not have an outer ear. We have an outer structure, outer ear. They do not have an outer ear. They have tympanum, which represents the ear. Okay, tympanum is just a membrane. Then the next point is that alimentary canal, urinary tracts and reproductive tracts, they all open into a common chamber that is known as cloaca. Okay, so cloaca is a common chamber in which the alimentary canal, urinary tracts as well as reproductive tracts open, and then this cloaca further opens to the exterior. Okay. Now the things are very simple things such as respiration, circulation, all these things you might already be aware of. The respiration takes place with the help of gills, lungs or skin. We have already seen that their moist skin helps in respiration. Other than that, they also have gills because these are amphibians. They can live in water as well as on land. So when they are living in water, how will they respire? So they will respire with the help of gills. Okay. Then they have lungs through which they will respire when they are present on the land. Okay. These are cold-blooded again. Okay. Cold-blooded. Before this, we had seen the term poikilotherms. The same term will be applied here, poikilotherms. It means cold-blooded. And I have already explained what do we mean by poikilotherms or cold-blooded. It means that they will not have a constant body temperature. Their body temperature will vary according to the environment or according to the situation. Okay. Then heart is 3-chambered. This also we have discussed. Fish have 2-chambered heart. Amphibians and reptiles have 3-chambered heart, and aves and mammals will have 4-chambered heart. Sexes are separate. That means they are unisexual. Then fertilization is external. They are oviparous. That means they lay eggs. These are very simple things that these are not difficult. Okay. And development is indirect. Indirect development means the development will take place through the larval stage. So you would have seen that the larva of a frog looks very different from the adult frog. Okay. So that is the therefore it is known as an indirect development. Now here are the examples you can see. Hyla, that is the tree frog. Okay, so this frog is found on the trees. Okay, it lives on the trees. Then we have bufo, that is known as toad, and then we have rana, that is the most common frog that we see. Okay, green colored frog. Okay, so I have added these pictures so that you can differentiate between them on the basis of their appearance. Okay. And then you can see salamander and ichthyophis, that is limbless amphibia. So this last picture you can see ichthyophis, that is limbless amphibia. So this looks similar to the snake, but it is not a snake. Okay, snake is a reptile, but this is an amphibian. Okay, so this might be confusing, so you can just keep its picture in mind. Now we are done with the amphibians. We will move to the next class, that is the reptilia. Okay, so you have heard of reptiles. The snakes are reptiles, right? So what do we mean by reptilia? This is related to creeping or crawling. Okay, their mode of locomotion is creeping or crawling. They do not walk or run. They creep or crawl. Okay, then these are mostly terrestrial, but not all of them are terrestrial. For example, you must have heard that some snakes are found in water. Okay, so some can be found in water, but most of the cases they are terrestrial. Okay, then their skin is dry and cornified. In case of amphibians, we saw that they had moist skin, but here the skin is dry, not moist. Okay, it is dry and cornified. Then epidermal scales or scutes are also present in the scales, which can be shed off, right? Again, tympanum represents the ear. In amphibians also tympanum was present. Here also tympanum is present. Okay. Then heart is three-chambered. We have discussed that the amphibians as well as reptiles will have three-chambered heart, but there is one exception here. Okay. One reptile that has four-chambered heart is crocodile. Okay. So crocodile is a reptile which has four-chambered heart. Okay, then these are also poikilotherms, that means cold-blooded. Again, I have explained it to you, cold-blooded. Their body temperature will be variable. Okay, it will not be constant. Then respiration here will take place through the lungs. Fertilization is internal. These are oviparous, that means they lay eggs. And then the development is direct. Okay, that means no larval stage is there. Okay, direct development means no larval stage. No larval stage. Now we have the examples. Although all these examples are already mentioned in your NCERT, so you can just have a look at the names of the examples. Okay, you can see Chilon, that is turtle, testudo, that is tortoise, chameleon. So you just have to remember these names. All these names are mentioned in the NCERT. Here you can just have a look at the pictures. Okay, I've added three pictures here. First one is Naja, that is cobra. Second one is Bangarus, that is crate, and the second one is Vipera, that is viper. Okay, names you have to remember. You cannot afford to miss the examples. Okay, now we come to the third class, that is aves. Aves are birds. Okay, birds are like, I don't need to give examples of birds. You already are aware of all the birds like crows, sparrows, pigeons, peacock, parrots, all are birds. Okay, and most of the features or the characteristics also you would be aware of. There is presence of feathers. You all know that the birds have feathers, right? Then most of them can fly. You know that the birds fly, right? But there always is some exception. So here also there is an exception, that is ostrich, which is flightless bird. Okay. So which bird is flightless? Ostrich. Ostrich is a flightless bird. This also we have been studying since childhood, that ostrich is the flightless bird. Now here we all know that they have feathers and they have wings, but what you have to keep in mind that the wings are nothing but the modification of their forelimbs. Okay, why? If I ask you that, does any bird have four limbs? No. Have you seen any bird having four limbs? No, they have only two limbs. Four limbs, I mean, have you ever seen that they have four limbs or four legs? No, they have only two limbs. Okay, and why? Because we are studying them under the tetrapoda. Tetrapoda means having four legs. Okay, but the birds have only two legs. So why they are placed under tetrapoda? Because initially they had four legs, but the four limbs, see, four, do not get confused between FOUR4 and FORE4. Here I am saying that they have four, tetrapoda have four limbs, but aves being tetrapoda, their front limbs, two front limbs that are also known as forelimbs, are modified into wings. Therefore, you do not see them having four legs. Okay, they have only two legs because two of the front legs have been modified into the wings. This is what I wanted to explain. Okay, so their four limbs have been modified into the wings. And what about the hind limbs? The two limbs that are present behind the forelimbs are used for the daily activities such as walking, swimming, or clasping the tree branches. So these lines were mentioned in the NCERT, therefore I have mentioned them. Okay. And what about the skin? So they also have dry skin which does not have glands. Okay, so their skin does not have glands. See, our skin have sweat glands, therefore we sweat. They do not have glands on their skin, so they do not sweat. But there is one part of their body where the glands are present, and that is the base of the tail. The oil gland is present only at the base of their tail, and no other glands are present on any other part of the body. Okay, so this you have to keep in mind. Where is the oil gland present? At the base of the tail. This is important. Then they have an ossified endoskeleton. Endoskeleton, not exoskeleton. Skeleton is present inside the body, therefore endoskeleton. And it is ossified endoskeleton. It means the endoskeleton is bony. Ossified means bony endoskeleton. So their skeleton is made up of bones. And their long bones are hollow, okay, with air cavities. Therefore, these are known as pneumatic. Okay, so they have air cavities in the hollow long bones. So this is also important feature of birds. And why is it helpful? This pneumatic long bones are important. Why? Because since they are hollow, so their mass is less. Okay, so this decreases their weight. Okay, and that is why they are able to fly high in the sky. Okay, so because of the less mass, they are able to fly high in the sky. Okay, then crop and gizzard. What are crop and gizzard? This is again another important feature of the birds. So these are additional chambers which are present in the digestive tract, and their function is similar to that of stomach. Okay, so crop and gizzard are similar to the stomach, right? And these are the additional chambers in the digestive tract. This much only you have to remember. Then heart is four chamber, we have already discussed in apes as well as in mammals. The next class that we will be discussing, there also four chambered heart will be present. These are homeotherms. Now, before this in amphibians and reptiles, we saw that they were poikilothermous, that means cold-blooded. But these apes as well as mammals will be homeothermous, that means warm-blooded. Warm-blooded. And what do we mean by warm-blooded? It means their body temperature remains constant. Body temperature is constant. Okay, it does not change with the change in environment. Got it? Then respiration takes place through the lungs. Okay, and air sacs are connected to the lungs. So respiration takes place through the lungs with the help of the air sacs which are connected to the lungs. Sexes are separate. That means male and female are present in separate bodies. Then fertilization is internal. Oviparous, we know that the birds lay eggs, right? So these are oviparous, and there is direct development. That means without any larval stage. No larval stage is found. Now, I don't think the examples are required. You all know the examples of birds, but here I have mentioned these because I want you to remember the scientific names specifically, because common names we remember easily: crow, sparrow, pigeon, but scientific names become confusing. So corvus means crow, columba means pigeon, Psittacula means parrot, Struthio means ostrich, Pavo means peacock. Ap what is this? Aptenodytes means penguin, and Nephron is the name of the vulture. So you have to remember these names, because if scientific names are asked, then you will get confused. Okay, and I have not added the pictures because that was not required. Okay, you already have seen all these birds. And then we come to the last class of the vertebrates, that is the mammals. So all of us are mammals, we human beings are mammals, and you have seen the mammals in your daily life: cows, buffalo, All these are mammals. Goats are mammals, right? Camels are mammals. Then the wild animals like tiger, lion, panther, all these are mammals only. Okay, so they live in variety of habitats. They are found almost everywhere, in water, on land, on trees, everywhere. Okay, then the special feature of the mammals is this one: presence of mammary gland. Okay, so mammary gland is present only in the mammals, and from name only it is clear that it is the characteristic of mammals. And this mammary gland releases the milk. Okay, this is the milk producing gland. Milk producing gland known as mammary gland is present in the mammals, which is used for the nourishment of the babies. Okay, so this is the most important characteristic of mammals. Other than this, there is one more important characteristic, that is the presence of hair. We have hair on our body, okay, but other animals do not have hair. That means before mammals, none of the animals had hair on their body. Only mammals have hair. Whether it is cow, dogs, cats, buffalo, anything, they all have hair on their body, okay, because these are mammals. Then they have two pairs of limbs. Definitely these are tetrapoda. That means four limbs. So they have two pairs of limbs or four limbs. Okay. Presence of hair on skin, I have already told. This is again important characteristic of the mammals. Then presence of external ear or pinna. In amphibians and reptiles, we saw that they did not have an external ear. They had only tympanum. But we mammals have external ear. This one is known as pinna. Okay, these two are known as pinna. And we also have tympanic membrane that is located inside. Okay. Then different types of teeth are present in the jaws. These are very basic things that does not need to be mentioned, but still I mentioned these. Heart is four-chambered. Again and again I have told you, heart is four-chambered in birds and mammals. Okay. Then these are homeothermous, that is warm-blooded. We all are warm-blooded animals. That means the body temperature is constant. Okay. No matter how the environment is, the body temperature will always remain constant. Okay. Then respiration is through the lungs. We all have lungs for respiration. Sexes are separate, males and females are separate. Fertilization is internal. These are viviparous. Now this is important characteristic, that the mammals are viviparous. That means they give birth to the young ones. Okay, but there will be some exception definitely. So there are few exceptions, but in general the mammals are viviparous. They give birth to the young ones. Okay, and development is direct. That means without any larval stage. Now, there are many examples of the mammals that are mentioned in the NCERT. There you can check the examples. You can read all the examples. Here I have mentioned only two examples. One example is of oviparous mammal and the other is viviparous mammal. Okay, so we know that most of them are viviparous, but the exceptional one is Ornithorhynchus, that is platypus. Okay, so this is often asked in question, which is the egg-laying mammal. So this is one of them, platypus. So this you have to remember. And there are many viviparous mammals. All the normal animals that you see are viviparous. But I have mentioned one name, that is Pteropus, that is flying fox. So this is the mammal which can fly. So again, there are very few mammals which can fly. So this is the one of them. Okay, Pteropus, flying fox. Other mammals mostly are terrestrial. Okay, and if I ask you to give an example of an aquatic mammal that lives in water, what will be the example? The best example will be whale. Okay, so just remember this: whales are not fish, they are mammals. Okay, so the example of aquatic mammal will be whale. So we have completed the chapter Animal Kingdom. This was a lengthy chapter, right, and very confusing as well. So if the concept is clear, then it will not be very difficult to you. I hope you have understood the concept well. If you have any doubt, please feel free to mention your doubts in the comment section and I will be replying to your doubts. Okay, we will get back with another session. Thank you so much.